Hello, welcome to Brap Life. My name's Angel. This week's episode is with my friend Sasha Vitalie. She is an amazing rider from the East Coast, and she is just a powerhouse woman. She's a super inspiration of mine, and I'm super excited to have sat down and talk with her. We talk about literally all things dirt bike, from maintenance, bike ferries, doing your own bike work, all the way to the way people think about stuff on a trail and riding hard enduro and racing it. So, a lot of this is centered on women and empowering women, but of course, we mean all dirt bikers too. Everyone who's new, everyone who's been in this for a long time. We're just very specific on women just because of some stuff that's going on behind the scenes right now. So, I hope you guys really enjoy this episode, and we'll see you next week.
I
See?
just saw it said recording started.
No. Well, this is it. Welcome to Brap Life. This is the official recording time now. So
I'm ready for it.
awesome. I'm excited. So, first of all, would you like to introduce yourself to the world?
I am Sasha Vitalie. I just started riding a few years ago, and I'm really into lately hard enduro. And recently, me and my friend Georgia, we started a page called Northeast Hard Enduro Women. So, yeah, I'm just like really excited to talk to you about this because we're both like interested in the same thing, which is, spreading the word
Yeah.
of hard enduro and especially for women specifically.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'm super stoked. Okay, well, before we get into that stuff, let's start at the beginning. And why don't you tell us how you got into riding in the first place? You said it was just a few years ago. So, what got you into it and what bike were you on?
So I actually did just see 4 years ago today is when I bought my first ever bike, which is crazy. That's like, isn't
Oh,
that like ironic that the 4 years
that's
ago today?
awesome.
I know. So 4 years ago, um, so I was never into dirt bikes. I did not grow up around dirt bikes, but my husband,
Mhm.
he always grew up riding dirt bikes, racing dirt bikes. He did motocross, he did GNCCs and things like that. And then
Wow.
we ended up moving to Virginia right after high school for a couple years. And then when we came back, um, he just like started riding a little bit more just because we didn't have his bike in Virginia at the time. So like
Yeah.
we were like pretty far removed from dirt bikes. And then when we came back,
Mhm.
his nephew, he did his first ever GNCC race. And I went and I like almost didn't go because I was like, I don't know, like dirt bikes, like they're like not my thing. Like I'm not just not into dirt bikes, which is so funny looking back. Like my brother-in-law always makes fun of me for saying that. Like dirt bikes are
Yeah.
not really my thing. So I went, and I think it was like like races are fun, like GNCC races. I don't
Yeah.
know if you've ever been to like a GNCC race. But they're like you can like
Mm-mm.
go in the woods. I mean, like I really like hard enduros now, like experience a
Yeah.
hard enduro race. But like GNCC, you get to like go in the woods, like watch racers and stuff. So that was fun. But what really like made me like actually want to ride was Rachel Goodage. She won that race and she was on the podium. And I
Yeah.
was like, that is so cool. Like she just like inspired me so much that day. I don't know why. So after that, I was like, you
Yeah.
know what? Like maybe I will start. Maybe I will try to ride a dirt bike. So one day we went over to my brother-in-law's house, and my husband has like a really old a KX 125, and it's a I think it's like a
Mhm.
2002. So it's like a
Mhm.
kick. You have to kick it to start it, and it's like like an old 125 where you really have to like wind it out. But I like was just like
Yeah.
putting around, and I was like, I kind of like this. I think this is fun. So like my husband like took
Yeah.
that and like ran with it. Like he was just like, okay, and he was like making me watch all these videos like of how to ride. Like there's like all these like YouTube channels. Like he was like making every single night we were watching these videos. And then he did like surprise me with my first bike, which was a KTM 150 XEW, the 2021.
Yeah.
Um, which is funny because we have the same bank account, but he did surprise me with it. But like one day I came home, I was like, "Are you gonna buy me a dirt bike?" He's like, "No, why would you think that?" I'm like, "I just like have this feeling like you're gonna buy me a dirt bike." And he's like, no, like I don't know why you keep thinking that. And I like came downstairs in the basement. Like I didn't even see it at first. But yeah, I was in the
Uh-huh.
basement. I was so excited. But I didn't like lower it or anything. So, like, I, like, tipped
Uh-huh.
over, like, the first time I tipped it over in the basement. Like, I think I, like, broke something on it first. So I did that, like, first thing I did was that, and then I, like, putted around, like, outside, like, on the road, and I, like, fell over then, but I don't know, there's something about it, I really liked it. But,
Yeah.
yeah, so that was 2021. 2021 is when I got the bike. So it's been
Okay.
4 years. 4 years today.
That's so
But now
cool.
yeah, but now I do have a 300, so I don't have that 150 anymore.
Yeah. And did you make that transition kind of when you started getting into hard enduro?
Yeah, because when I first started riding, like, we were not into hard enduro at all. Like, this was like, my
Mhm,
husband, like I said, he stopped off at racing GNCCs, and those are, like, pretty
mhm,
popular, like, in the area that we're at. Like, in Pennsylvania and
mhm.
Ohio, and especially, like, West Virginia, like, GNCCs are, like, super popular, in
Yeah.
motocross. So, my husband, though, like, he always was like, "I like more, like, technical riding." Like, I think because like the races themselves were just like not super technical, and like they got bigger and
Mhm,
bigger, and it seemed like they just became less technical. But he always
mhm.
liked the ones. There's one called like the Mountaineer, and it's like there's actually like rocks and stuff. And he's like, I just like riding that stuff because that's what we ride at home, and
Yeah.
we knew that rider lived near us, but we like never got to
Mhm.
like meet him or ride with him or anything. But we like saw that he was into like the hard enduro series, and at the time, like it wasn't very
Yeah.
big. So we were
Yeah.
riding and stuff, and then I was like, he like lives like so close to us. Like, why don't we like ask him to ride? Like, I know that's like weird, but we should just ask him to ride. And they're like, I don't know if he will. And I was like, I'm just gonna message him. And I did, and he's like, okay. And he like came out, and then we went to my brother-in-law's house, and he had like some stuff set up there, like a big log, and then there was like
Mhm.
these hills that like we thought were like so steep, like so hard. And like watching like Ryder, I think like seeing that in person, like it's like
Mhm.
unreal. Like if you've never seen like hard enduro riding, you're like, it's just like so different. So like he would like we just like
Yeah.
watch him like just like hop on a log with like no there was like barely any sound at all. Like he's like just like floats, like floated on everything. And after that, like my husband was like, okay, like I want to do that. I want to get into that. So like since then, like my husband had like a 300 XC, and then
Uh-huh.
he got like the XCW. Like everybody in our group that we rode with, like ended up getting like XCWs or like TEs, like anything with like the headlight. After that, we were like so inspired.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it wasn't probably for riding with Ryder, like we probably like I would have rode like in the woods and stuff and like tried to do, like GNCC style racing. And there's like another series around here called A Works, but um yeah, I
Yeah.
would have never like even thought you could ride through the things that, like he did. Like we were at the he would just
Yeah.
like go up like random things. I was like, I would never think a bike could even go through that. So yeah, if it wasn't for him,
It's
we
kinda
probably would have.
crazy what those guys will go through. Like,
Yeah,
some of
it
those
is.
guys, like, some of these dudes are so talented, and, like, the lines that they hit are just, like, insane. Like, this last
Yeah,
weekend, I was with a bunch of good riders, and I was, like, watching them hit stuff, and normally, because 'cause I've ridden with a lot of pros and, like, really good people, so normally I can see the lines, even though I know I'm never gonna be able to do it. But these guys were hitting lines that I didn't even see, and I was like, "Whoa." Like, it was
yeah.
crazy.
I that's like one thing, like I just in general, I'm not good at picking lines, but like just to like see something that like why would you think to go up that? But they just do it. They just send it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that definitely like got us into that. And then my husband, he got really like into it, like and then I did too. But then I broke my leg, which kind of sucks. Well, I broke my leg before we got to ride. Actually, whenever Ryder came over, I wasn't even riding. My leg was broken. So I was like, you and I'd come over and I just like watched them ride. My leg was still broken. And I was like, well, I guess when I get
Oh
on my
my
bike,
god.
I'm gonna try to do this type of stuff. Obviously, I haven't gotten to that level, but um yeah, I was just there and I was like, well, it was just cool to like watch and see. But yeah, my leg was broken at the time. I just remembered that.
So what was your
But
first hard enduro that you did?
So my first hard enduro was Tough Like Roar because so I did that in 2024 last year.
Mhm.
So we went like the first time ever 2023 to like I watched it, Josh raced it. So in
Yeah.
2023, that was like my first ever experience at a hard enduro race, I think. Yeah,
Mhm.
I believe so. I might be wrong. No, I think I'm wrong. Scratch that. I think it was in Ohio was like the first race. Yeah, because Josh,
Oh,
yeah, he did his first race in Ohio and it was like rainy and it was like we watched that. I watched it. It was terrible. There was so much rain. He like barely got anywhere. But Top Like Roar happened and Roar is like
uh-huh.
so much bigger and it was so cool because like people were like Sandra Gomez was there racing and she's
Mhm.
awesome. Like she's amazing. I got some like good videos of her racing. And then oh my gosh, why can't I not think of his name? He rides for Triumph right now. He used to ride for Beta. Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker was there too. So I got to watch that. Um, and then yeah, there was like people from like all over racing that. So I got to see like we went like through the woods and like got good videos of everybody. Like I got like some good videos of people coming up through the rocks and stuff. Um, and then
Uh-huh.
Josh, whenever he did because there's like the qualifier event first on
Mhm.
Saturday, he said he was like, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Like it's just like a single track. Like it's really not that bad. It's only like an hour and a half. Like you'll definitely be able to do it next year. Definitely, it'd be so easy. This is foreshadowing. Okay, so the next year comes around, and
Uh-huh.
they change the course up a little bit and they make it like more hard, which is great because people who didn't get to experience because like there's only like 70 people who get into the main event. So like it's like such a
Mhm.
limited amount. Like you don't get to experience like the rock gardens that much. So in 2024, he's like, there's rocks, but it's like not that bad. Well, like I like raced it and it was like definitely like harder than it was the year before. I didn't know that going into
Yeah.
it. But that was my first race, and there was like a couple other girls there too, and they were all like so nice,
Uh-huh.
and they were like, "Yeah, like we'll like help each other if we can," and that's kind of like what ended up happening. But it was
Yeah.
so incredibly hard because I was just like expecting um just like single track. I was like some rocks and stuff, but there was like I don't even like know. I can't like I feel like I just like blacked out because it was just so it was so hot. It was so
I
hot. I was like
just
out of
blacked.
water. I was like dying. I was like in a rock garden. I was just like, oh my God, just take me away, Lord. Like I was just but yeah, like ran out of water. And then I got to one checkpoint. I was so excited. Like I was like, yes, I got to a checkpoint. But it was like over the time. Like I still DNF'd. So that was kind of sad.
Oh.
And then I did there was like an LCQ, like last year's qualifier. So I did
Uh-huh.
two qualifiers in the same day. And I both
Oh
passed
my god.
DNF, but it was a cool experience. Like I never got to ride,
Yeah.
like stuff like that before. Um,
Mhm.
and I definitely like learned. I'm like, I will bring a lot more water next time so I don't run out.
Roar Roar in 24 was hot, dude. You guys on bikes. I was in a tank top and shorts, and I was hiking around and, like, trying to get pictures and stuff, and I was so hot. I
It was
carried so much
awful.
extra water for people because I was just
Yeah,
like, "It's way too hot out here." It was insane, and
yeah,
I was like, I think it would be worse on the bike because you have all the gear on, but at the same time, at least you don't have that stagnant air, you're at least getting it, going by you,
yeah.
but
Not me though, because I was
it was
moving so slow. There
bad.
was no airflow. I was going so slow. The air was not flowing.
Aw,
There
you
was
poor
no
thing.
flowing. Yeah. It was hot. It was so,
That's
like, weirdly hot for Pennsylvania, especially, like, that time of year.
yeah, this
I mean,
year,
it
they
does
said it
get
was
hot, but
hotter than it normally is, though, so
yeah, like, Cody Webb, like, looked like he was gonna die. Like, that was
mhm,
crazy.
yeah. Yeah, I was at the finish line when he came through, and
Oh, were you?
I watched him, like, fall to the floor, and I was like,
Collapsed.
"Oh my god, what is happening right now?" And my friend and
Yeah.
I were there, we were like, "What just happened?" We're, like, trying to see, there was a big old crowd, and it was crazy, like, absolutely insane. Everybody, so Cody wasn't the only one who ended up in the hospital that day. There was like 3 or 4 other people who ended up for heat exhaustion. Um,
Heat
and
exhaustion is
every
scary too.
It is, it's insane. But every single person who went to the hospital was racing the next day. And I
Yeah,
think that that's
that's the
just,
other part of it, is, like, you race the
yeah,
next day.
you're still gonna go the next day. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like it's part of it, and it's so cool because like you don't get that kind of push. You don't get that kind of dedication in any other discipline that I have seen personally, I will say. So I just think it's awesome. The screw that we all have loose for the people who like to do hard enduro, like we're all the
Yeah.
same in that way, and it's really cool. And
Mhm.
going back to you were talking about how Ryder was just so cool about coming out and riding with you guys, and um it's something that we talk about on the podcast a lot, is that the pros in hard enduro are so accessible. They're so down to earth and just cool guys like that you can go and talk to. I've talked to Cody Webb on multiple occasions, just walked up to him and just like, hey, what's up? Um, I did the same thing when I met Jarvis at a clinic. Like, Graham Jarvis, walked right up to him, started talking to him like he's a normal human being, because he is a normal human being. He can do some
Mhm.
insanely cool stuff on a bike, but I mean, these guys are just people, talented, but they're just people. And
Mhm.
it's very different than some other disciplines. Some other disciplines, they don't have time to talk to people, and so they come off as rude, and some of them are rude, I would say, but
Mhm.
in my personal experience, um it's just it's really cool to see those guys be active in the community. I've seen
Yeah, for
Ryder
sure.
goes and rides with you guys. I've heard he's really cool to talk to. I've never really talked to him in person. Um, but yeah, it's awesome. And the community around it, like you said, the women are so supportive of each other. And that was one of the cool things that I saw. My first hard enduro that I went to was Battle of the Goats this last year in 24. And there were 2 women, and I watched them help each other through some sections, and it was really cool. And I was just like, this is
I
awesome. The
probably
camaraderie that happens
know who
is
those people are.
amazing. Yeah. So,
Was it Chelsea and
yep.
Kate?
And Kate, yeah. Yep.
They're
They're
both so
awesome.
freaking nice.
Yeah, I love them. And they're such different personalities, but then they get along so well. It's so cool.
Yeah, that's what whenever I raced in Ohio, um,
Mhm.
it was just us 3, like me, Kate, and Chelsea, and they're
Yeah.
just, like, so freaking nice and so sweet, and Kate is so freaking like, she's just so friendly and so funny, and then she's, like, so strong too, like, she'll just, like, pick your bike up.
Yeah.
She'll be like, "Alright, here," and she just lifts your bike right up, like,
It's just like
that's what I need to work
Yeah,
on.
she's a beast. Oh my
Yeah.
god, it was so cool to watch her. I watched her when she first came through on Chicken Fight at Battle of the Goats, and I was just like, she beasted up that hill pretty, like but she did better than a lot of the guys. And she was just like choop choop choop, and then just like put her
Yeah,
feet down and like walk the bike up. It was so cool. And I was
yeah, and
like, I want to be like her.
she's so funny too because she, like, comes out to the races by herself. Like, she just, like, comes out
Yeah.
in the race, she's by herself. She's just there to have fun, like, it's freaking
Yep.
awesome to see.
Yeah, it's super cool. And like before that, like I was like under the impression that you have to be like serious about racing if you're going to be in a hard enduro. Like you have to be in it to win it.
Yeah.
Like you have to be like you have to get to the finish and everything. And I was like, cool, yeah, one day. But
Mhm.
like I'm planning on doing Battle of the Goats this year, and my whole goal is just to get to one checkpoint. Like, my friends are like, dude, make your goal to finish. And I was like, oh, ultimately, yes, but I will be this
Yeah.
like stupid happy if I can just make one checkpoint, because like it's
Yeah.
my first one, and I really like, I've ridden at Brushy before, and I've ridden, you know, some of the stuff that was like in the qualifier and in the race and stuff, but that doesn't mean that I'll be able to do it in a race setting. So
Hmm.
like, you know, races are different, and it's like there's bottlenecks, there's other people you have to worry about, there's not perfect conditions. Lord knows it's probably going to be raining that day, and Brushy in the rain is an absolute disaster. So
I've never
it's going
rode
to
there or
be
raced there, but I am going there this year. So I will be right there with
it's
you.
clay. It's clay.
Oh,
So if it
perfect.
rains even a little bit, you are slipping and sliding all over the place.
Perfect.
So just be
That's
prepared for
exactly what I
that.
want.
And it's red clay, so don't wear anything you want stained.
Okay.
That's the girly
It's
side.
definitely noted. Yeah,
Was
I'm
like, there's this really cool, like, this is the brand that I wear is Hermoto, and they came out
yeah.
with this really pretty like white top that has like some berry colors on it, and I was like, ooh, that would be so cool. Like I could just envision it for like pictures like racing. And then I was like, oh, but it's at Brushy and it's probably gonna rain, and that will get stained 100%, and it will never, the red will never come out of the white ever. My boots were white before I went to Brushy, and it rained the first day I was there, and they have never been white again.
Yeah, I really like their set they just came out with the purple. That's so freaking cute. The
Oh, the Hermo,
Hermoto, oh
yes.
my gosh, so
Mhm.
cute. I
I
got my
love
eye
it.
on that.
Yeah, I love their stuff. I've been running Hermoto for like a year and a half, maybe, no, 2 years almost, because the first time I got it was right before I did my first little hair scramble on my TTR. That was in March of 23. So, yeah, almost 2 years. So, I freaking love it, dude. It's so comfortable. Um, but then they have like not the usual colors too. And like,
Mhm.
cuz most of everything else for women is like pink or that super freaking bright green yellow color, like just
Yeah,
neon in your face. And I'm not about that. Like I hate
yeah.
like being that bright all the time, because then it's like the whole kit is just that color, you know? And Hermoto just came out with one that has like some of those colors on it. It's like highlighter up top, but then it's like black on the bottom. I'm like, I can handle a little bit. I just
Yeah.
can't handle all of the whole thing just being like, hello, I'm here. Like, that's not me.
You'll definitely be able to pick out, in the crowd.
Yeah. Yeah, so, like, I mean, this is pretty, like, loud for me, like, but I do like red, so
Mhm.
I picked this one, but I'll also
Yeah,
pretty
my
much run anything Hermoto wear or makes.
my issue is, like, I want all the gear sets. I'm like, "Ooh, I like that a lot." Just like, "Maybe just, like,
Yeah.
wait a little bit before you get another gear set." I'm like, "Yeah, I guess. I guess."
I I've been losing weight over the last couple years, and, like, I told myself, like, when I get to this goal weight, I'm gonna buy myself new gear. When I get to this goal weight, I'm gonna buy myself new gear. So I've spent
My husband just came
ridiculous
in here.
amounts of money on gear. Oh, he's not
Oh my g
allowed, it's girl time.
yeah, it's girl time, Josh, get out.
Must have a wig to be present.
Yeah. Yeah, but,
Um
yeah, I could spend, like, all my money on dirt bike gear, like, just the gear sets.
That's the girl in you.
She said, "You could or you have."
Both.
So, but
Yeah, I definitely like, it's so funny. I was talking to my girlfriend the other day, and I was like, "Um, so we're riding this weekend." I was like, "What gear should I take?" And she's like,
like
"How many jerseys do you have now?" And I was like, 4, 5, 6, I don't know. more than one,
Well,
so
like,
I have
they get
choices.
dirty. Yeah, they get dirty and, like,
Yeah,
you have to, like, cycle through. Cause like, if you're gonna be riding a
yeah,
lot, you know, like, if one of them gets
yeah.
a little, like, stained or, like, one of them rips a little bit, like, it's better. I think it's economically better to have multiple ones, so that way the one set doesn't just, like, wear down. That's just, like, the way you have to do it.
Yeah,
You're just saving money in the long run
exactly,
because 'cause you're going through them less.
exactly. I feel that. I like this. This is a great conversation.
It's like validating, like, "You know what?
I'm
I'll fight your side right now."
Oh god, yes. See, I always I'm the person who validates everybody on spending money on their dirt bikes, but like on their actual bike. Like I had a friend tell me he's like, "Man, I don't know if I should buy a new tire or not." I'm like, "Do it." And then another friend was
Do it
like,
right now.
"Man, I don't know. I don't know if I should buy new bars or not." I'm like, "Do it." Like just do it. Like if it makes the
Just
ride
spend it.
better, do it. If it protects your bike, do it. If it makes your bike look better and that makes you feel better, do it. Like, I am that
Exactly.
person. But when it comes to gear for myself, I'm like, man, I don't know if I should do that because there's a lot of stuff that needs to be fixed on my bike still. Like, I was unemployed for a total of 4 months this year. Like, it's a lot of time to not have money when you ride dirt bikes.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
especially when you're
Yes.
getting into hard enduro, like, I fell down
Yes.
a mountain and I bent bars, like, I screwed up my chain guide, like, there's a lot of things that are still getting fixed on the bike, and the boys started looking at my bike and they're like, Angel. And I was like, I know, there's a list, okay? And I haven't bought new gear yet because I've been working on the list to get the bike back dialed in.
Yeah,
But
that's definitely,
um,
like, the important thing
that's
I have to
number
keep in my
one.
mind.
But I'm almost done with that list. And then as soon as that list is done, then the gear's happening.
Exactly. Yeah, I have quite a lot of work to do, and I say I mean my husband. I'll be there emotional supporting
You
him
have a
throughout
bike
that.
fairy.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I will, like, be there emotionally supporting him throughout the process, but, I have some like, I think it's, like, the top end needs rebuilt, and then,
Mhm,
because like, my bike has, like, 110 hours now, the top end needs done,
mhm.
and I don't know what else. There's just, like, a few things, like, we're gonna have to put some money into it, but I was like, "You know what? This is a great time. I'm actually gonna get a graphics kit." So, um, yeah, so my bike will be good as new soon, but it was just funny because my husband's like, "Yeah, like, we gotta put, like, some money into the bike this year," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, that, but I'm like, I think I'm gonna get a graphics kit as well." Like, he's just like, "Oh my gosh."
He's like,
Because like,
"That's not the priority." Yeah.
hard enduro, like, you're so hard on your bike, like, it looks nice. It's gonna
Mhm.
look nice for, like, a week. Like, that's why I'm gonna take a ton of
Yeah.
videos and pictures because, like, your bike just, like, it's destroyed.
Yeah. I
But
know
you fell down that mountain?
oh,
You
yeah.
said you fell down the
Uh-huh.
mountain?
I did. I did. In December, I went on a trail ride, and so it was a trail ride for adventure bikes, but there was, like, a dirt bike single track portion for people who had non-plated bikes, and I was like, "Cool." And I ended up meeting up with this girl there, and I didn't know anybody. I didn't know
Oh my
anyone at all
gosh,
at this
good
ride.
for you.
Um Dude, it was terrifying, but I was like I had kind of been in contact with some people because at the time I was promoting a Graham Jarvis clinic, and I had people follow me off of that, and so that's how I got invited to this event. And I was like, "Cool, this is awesome." So I went, and then people had this expectation that because I was promoting this clinic that I could ride well. And that was like, I was trying to tell them, I'm like, that is not the case. Like, I promise you, like, I'm a C rider. And they're like, well, this course is single track. It's like an A-B course. Like, it's like, it's pretty, it's not super technical, but it's single track. And it goes like up the mountain and down the mountain. And I was like, okay, like, it doesn't sound too bad. So we started out on the course and I was like, yeah, this stuff sucks because I had never really ridden in sand, maybe like once or
I
twice,
have
but like
never
I don't have a
either.
ton of experience in it. And so I was freaking out in the sand because I just kept falling over and I was like, how do you ride in this? So we finally get out of the sand, we hit rocks. I was so excited. And so did great in the rocks, did great on the climb on the first area, went jet back down, went to a second area, did a climb fantastically. I was so proud of myself. We hit the single track, was doing good, feeling great. And literally, there was one portion of the single track on the side of the mountain that has like a cliff portion on it. And everything prior to that and everything after that has like a little bit of a grade to it. And that's the one part I hit a rock. My front tire hit the rock, and when I hit it, I pulled it out of the ground, and my rear tire hit it, and it spun on it and knocked me off the side of the mountain. So I fell
Oh
like
my God.
25, 30 feet. My bike rolled over me. It was gnarly. um, my GoPro was like attached to my helmet, like it was like tied to my helmet at the time, and it got ripped completely off, like snapped it like off of the bracket, and it was lost in the rocks somewhere. Somebody ended up finding it, but um yeah, it was a gnarly fall, but I jumped right back up and I wasn't hurt. Well, I ended up like finding out later I had dislocated my thumb and my middle finger, but I was like so full of adrenaline. I was like, I'm good. Like nothing's broken. Like even like my bike had a little bit of damage, but it was rideable. And
For falling off a
so we
cliff,
got the bike.
yeah.
Yeah. We There was a guy who fell in the exact same spot the year before and he broke ribs, he broke an arm, he broke a leg, he had like a concussion, exact same spot.
Oh
And
my God.
so yeah, so he got life flighted out and so I was like this could be way worse. So they got my bike out. It took like 5 or 6 guys to pull my bike up because it was so steep and so crazy in that area. Thank you to all of those guys still. Because I would not have gotten my bike back up by myself. I would have just been stuck at the bottom of that mountain. um but yeah, so got back on the trail and went to the meetup area where we were supposed to be having lunch. And I was like the last person to get there. And everybody like rallied around me. And this is going back to community, right? Like everybody had heard what had happened because I was on single track. So there was like everybody was stopped because the dude behind me stopped to help me. So nobody could go around him. So everybody got to see the girl from the East Coast that fell off the mountain in Arizona. And I was like, dude, I'm not even from the East Coast. Like, I'm from Arizona originally, but I had just gotten in from Tennessee. And so everybody was like, oh, you're the East Coast girl. And I was like, whatever, man. So that's my reputation
Oh my
here, though, is
God.
that I'm the East Coast girl because most of my riding has been East Coast. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm comfortable with. And like, it is very different riding West Coast.
That's what I hear. I mean, I've never ridden West Coast at all, like anything like I've never ridden in sand. Nothing like sand. Like I've
Come
ridden
to
in
visit.
mud. Oh, yeah, I know. I need to get out there. I've
Yes.
ridden in like mud. I've ridden in coal because like the coal dumps at tough like Roar, and we have coal
Yeah.
dumps here,
Yeah.
but never sand.
Yep.
But we don't have like the like exposure here. Like we don't have like cliff edges. Like we have steep mountains and stuff, but there's nothing like, oh, like if I
Mhm.
fall off this cliff, like that's it for me. Like I'm dead. Like we don't have anything like that here.
See, and it's like a mental thing. To me, it's mental, right? So like I fell off of it. I wasn't afraid of exposure before that. Like I was kind of afraid a little bit at Brushy one time when we were doing a pretty long downhill. This was pretty steep, but like I was still like getting introduced to downhills, and so I was like
Hmm.
super proud of myself for making it down. But um
I think I saw that video.
so I got out. Yeah, I got out
Yeah.
here and I was like, it's so scary because there's no trees. And to me, trees are like protection because yes, you can fall and you can hit a tree, but that
But
will
a
also
tree will
keep you from
stop.
falling all the way
Hmm.
down the mountain. And I'm like,
Yeah.
out here, there's cactus and little shrubs. And that's it. And so thankfully there was no cactus when I fell down the mountain. That was my thing. As I was falling, I was like, please don't let me fall into a cactus. Like,
Yeah,
please.
that's just like crazy. I can't like imagine. Like I hear too, like, well, because there's more sand, but like when you are on like rocks and stuff, like there's more traction. Like, is there more traction you think out west?
So it
Or
depends
like,
on where you are.
because like in Arizona, I just imagine sand. That's like what I think of. It's like sand and rock.
It all depends on what area you're riding. So like in the Phoenix area, there's a lot of sand and there's a lot of like I guess like marbly rocks on top of everything because they're like small rocks and they're just like it's like gravel on top of rocks. So when you're riding like in the wash or something, like a dry riverbed, uh you know, you're riding and you're going along at a good pace, and then all of a sudden your back end will slide out because you hit some of those rocks, and those little rocks move, and it's like riding on marbles. So,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of that out here. But then, like, you get to points where there's like a rocky section in a wash, and those rocks will typically be great for traction. Um, there's places up here where I'm at in northern Arizona that have amazing traction. And then you have some of the stuff that I've been riding on, which is absolutely zero traction because the rocks explode when you touch them. So, like, it all just depends on the area that you're in.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot of learning, but as for like going back to the exposure, like this weekend I rode in Jawbone Canyon in California, and the exposure on that was absolutely insane. These guys, I told them, I was like, thank you guys for having the confidence in me to think that I can do this, but oh my God, because
Yeah.
it's single track on a ridge and it's
On a
like you
cliff.
fall either direction. Oh my God. So that
Yeah.
was like
So
my
that's
first
scary.
really
My hands are
big
like literally sweating when you're
exposure.
talking about this. Like my hands are like actually sweating. Like just like imagining.
She's like, oh my God, oh my God. No, but like, I mean, I made it through and like I did okay. And if I could do it, you could definitely do it. Like, so
I'll just like
you're
have to
definitely
like
gonna come out here. I'm gonna take you
look at
there
it.
and it'll be great.
Okay.
That's the thing. It
I'm
was a
ready.
total like mind game. Like everything
It
when
is so much
I
mental.
drove out there, and I just started laughing because I was like,
There's
everything's
no
so
way.
big. Like, oh my God. And my friend had told me that. He was like, yeah, the hills are big. He's like, I'm just saying. And I was like, okay. And then I got out there and I was like, no, no, dude, these aren't big. These are huge. Like, this
Yeah.
is insane. So and then my friend Cody was like, "Yeah, we're just gonna like take a leisurely ride back because they've been doing these gnarly hill climbs and like all of these crazy lines and stuff." And I was having fun watching them, but he's like, "We'll do this like leisurely trail ride back." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure." So we start going, and then when we hit that ridge section, like, oh my God, I was just so in my head about it. And it was just completely mental, like I know that if I was in the woods and it was like even semi flat, I would have been totally fine. I wouldn't even have
Mhm.
given it a second thought about falling. This is
Yeah.
what my friend was telling me the other day. He's like, it is completely in your head because you would never, especially because some of that stuff was 2 track or like close to 2 track. He's like, you're not going to
Mhm.
fall over and like fall 10 feet to the left to fall off of that. And he's like, but in your head, that's what you're thinking. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. So it's overcoming that mental fear. And that's part of hard enduro, right? Like you have
Mhm.
to overcome so much mentally in hard enduro. And that was like a big test for me is can I push through this stuff? Can I keep going? Can I push past what scares me? And I
Mhm.
was able to do it. Thank- Thankfully the guys were there to help me and coach me through it cuz like I got stuck in my head. There's stuff that I probably would have cleaned anywhere else, but because I was so afraid of bouncing off of a rock and bouncing myself to the left 5 feet, like and falling off the cliff, I was just like being super reserved about it. And I should have just trusted my skills and my abilities and just committed to it. But
Hmm.
it got me in it hesitation always gets me into more trouble. Like
Oh
when I
yeah, me
hesitate on
too.
like I end up falling. So
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it is such a huge mental game. I totally like have that exact experience. Like it's just like crazy how differently you can ride if you're having like a good mental day versus like not a good mental day. Like your brain, it's just like if you think you can't do it, you can't do it. Like it doesn't matter your skill. If you like
mhm.
imagine yourself like hurting your or like falling, like the
Yeah.
like visualization like will actually make you fall. And like
Yeah.
if you like
Yep.
do the opposite, which is so hard to do in the moment, like you're like looking at like an obstacle or like a log or like a hill and you're like imagining yourself like I will definitely fall over. But if you like imagine yourself making it, like it's just
Yeah.
such a mental game. And I think like that's a big
Yeah.
thing with like the pro riders is like they have that mental where it's like I'm going to make this. Like I don't have a choice. And that's like one thing
Yeah.
too with racing specifically. Like there is no time to think about it. Like you're already there. Like there's no time to think like,
Yeah.
wow, this hill is really steep. Like I don't know if I'll make this hill. Like you just like look at it and you're like, well, I guess I'm gonna do it because like I don't have a
You're
choice.
like, I gotta go. Like,
Yeah, and
yeah.
you just like make it up. And or like, do you ever have the experience where like you try something and you get it the first
Mhm.
time, but then you can't get it after that? Like for some reason you can get it the first time. Like I
Mhm.
feel like that's part of it where you're like you don't think about it, so you just do it. But then you like think
Yeah.
about it like wow, that's like so steep, or like wow, that's like a huge obstacle. Like how did I do that? Like then you can't do
Yeah.
it. But like racing like
Yeah.
puts you like in a place where you're like I don't have a choice. Like it's just me out here. Like even though there's people there,
Yeah.
like I get like one thing I like had to work on with riding with Josh because he taught me how to ride, which is like
Yeah.
psychotic to do. Like don't ever get your spouse to teach you how to do anything, especially riding a dirt bike. But we made it through it. It is very frustrating to like learn from your spouse. We always joke about that for like anything. Like if your spouse
It
is the
is
one to teach you, like
that is
you're
a
gonna have a bad
thing.
time. You're gonna have a bad time.
It is a thing across the board. I have met like
Yes.
5 women ever who are like, "Oh no, my husband's really great at teaching." Everyone else is like, "I wanted to throttle him until somebody else taught me." Like, I
Hmm.
don't know what it is.
Yeah, I think it's just like you're the closest to them, and you can like kind of express, like, your fears more. I don't know what it is, but, we definitely, like, worked through that, I think. Like, I can, like, take his,
Yeah.
like, um, constructive feedback, like, better now, and I think he's better at giving it. Like, he's better at, like, putting into words, like, what he wants what he's trying to say. Like, because he's
Yeah.
just like, "Well, like, you just, like, go." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know what that
Yeah.
means." Like, I need, like, step-by-step instructions. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely cried a lot when I first started riding because, like, like, learning how to, like, just use the clutch, like, pulling out, like, just, like,
Mhm.
riding, like, a straight line. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but we've gotten, like, so much better with that specifically, but it's definitely hard to be, to learn from, like, your significant other, for sure. I definitely think so.
Yeah, yeah, when I was married, it was absolutely terrible to learn from him. Oh my god, I thought I was never gonna be able to be a good writer because I couldn't learn. Like, I just couldn't we did not do well with anything that he ever tried to teach me, so, like, we probably shouldn't have done the whole dirt bike thing together, but, um, he was, like, trying to tell me to, like he's like, "Here's your clutch, here's your brake, go." And I was like, okay, but how? Because like I had never ridden a motorcycle before. I
Me
had
either.
barely been on a bicycle like a few times in my life. And like, I mean, I knew how to ride a bicycle, so I have some concept of like balance, but like, it's not like balance was like a really good thing for me or anything. I wasn't an athlete or anything. So like, that was really hard for me, and we found the only sand in the whole tri-state area in the Midwest for trying to teach me in. So I was, like, falling over like crazy and trying to pick up my bike, and he was picking it up and getting upset because I was falling, and I was like, "Okay, I need you to be a little bit more patient with me, like, I'm not just gonna get this right away." But by the end of the day, I did, like, a 4 miles of trail. whiskey throttled it into a tree and knocked myself out, but I was still like, I was like so proud of myself. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Cause like all I wanted to do was ride a dirt bike. But yeah, it was completely the same experience. The second time ever that I rode, he took me up this hill and he was screaming at me. Like he was on his bike, I was on my bike. I didn't know what I was doing. He's screaming at me to try and tell me what to do, and I can't hear him. I don't know what he's saying. And I can't turn to like try to hear him because I'm trying to make it up this hill that I nope, didn't. Almost went over the edge. And he was just like so upset because he was worried, and I get that. But like maybe tell me what I'm supposed to do before we go to the obstacle. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, just an idea. But
Yeah.
um but yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, I think that's a very common experience that learning from your
Mm-hmm.
significant other is not a good thing. And that's been guys and girls. Like I've heard like people teaching people how to like ski or things like that. Like it's
Yeah,
just
I
never a
always
good thing. Like
yeah, and like it's so funny because my husband like actually like taught me how to drive, like in general, because we met in
yeah.
high school. He taught me how to drive, which is so
Yeah.
funny. Same thing. He tried to teach me on a manual transmission at first. I was like, I can't even like figure out the like using the steering wheel right now. Like, why are you trying to make me like shift and stuff? Um, but he is a good teacher. Like he's very patient and he's like a very good teacher. So that helps. But we're both like
Mhm.
incredibly stubborn people. Like him and I both are just so hard headed. It's like ridiculous. But I did have an initial point that I was trying to make that I completely forgot about. But I was saying with like the races in general, like that was like the
Uh-huh.
first time where I was like by myself. Like I always like if I got
Yeah.
stuck somewhere and we're riding, like I knew eventually like he'd realize I wasn't with him or like he'd come back around depending on where we're at and he'd come around and he'd like find me
Yeah.
there. So like worst case scenario, like he would, I would have someone like save me. So like at a hard enduro
Yeah.
race or like any race, it's like, oh, like I'm the only person that can actually help me right now, which was like mentally that helped me a lot in general. Like I try to do everything
Yeah.
like by myself now. Because before I
Yeah.
would just I think in the back of your mind you just think like, okay, like Josh will he'll get it for me, like if I can't get it. But if I like think like, no, like
Yeah.
there's no other option, you have to get it. Um, I feel like
Mhm.
I've improved just from doing that, like just having that
Yeah.
experience. But I will say with hard enduro races, so like like the spectators like can't help you at all. Like
Yeah.
spectators can only they're not allowed to help, but like the other racers can. There was like
Yeah.
so many racers that like they'll like help you because like you're in the way, but they'll like or like people who are just like riding, they're not there to race. They're just like, oh, you need
Yeah.
help here, I'll just like help you. So that's like really cool. That's like one thing with like,
Yeah.
and you were saying with like hard enduro races is like
Mhm.
not everybody's there to win a race. Like a lot of people are
Mhm.
there just to ride and like ride that terrain because like maybe they're not from the area and they want to know what it's like to ride there. And
Yeah.
a lot of people are just there like, yeah, I'm just like here just to have a good time and they'll just like help you
Yeah.
out and like people team up and then get into little groups and stuff, which is like so like mentally like far from like I have a friend, she races like motocross, like arena cross
Uh-huh.
and then like outdoor and like the idea that you like stop for a second to even like talk to somebody is like so like unheard of. I'm
Mhm.
like, you're out there for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna be eating snacks. You're gonna be chit
Yeah.
chatting. Like depending on what you're doing, like you're at least gonna be eating
Yeah.
snacks. Like even the pros have to eat a little
Yep.
snack on the race. So it is like funny.
Exactly.
It's like a completely different dynamic. Because like even GNCCs,
Mhm.
like they're like 2.5 hours. Like you're not like
Mhm.
stopping at all. Like you're not you never
Yeah.
stop. You're not
It's
nobody's
just
there to
go.
help
Yeah.
you. They'll like ride right over you. They're there to win a
Mhm.
race. So like
Yeah.
that's why I think that's why I like hard enduro so much more is because like I my first race ever was a GNCC race and like it was so intense, like just a very
Yeah.
intense experience and like people just like will like rev at you, which like I get it, like if you're like in the way, like rev at you and move out the way,
Yeah.
but it's just like exhausting to do that like 200 times in a race. But like hard
Yep.
enduro,
Yep.
the
I feel
vibes
that.
are just like so good. Like everybody there's like so nice, like and calm. And I think like a big part of it is like people are like older. too. Like, I just
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people, like, you can do hard enduro for a really long time. Like, you don't have to cut off when you're 20, retire at 25, like
Yeah.
motocross and like, or like 30 usually, like late 20s or early 30s, people retire. But like hard enduro, people ride until they're like in their 70s. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
It's
think
really
that makes a
awesome.
difference too. Because I
It makes me
remember,
feel good.
yeah, because it's like, oh, I can do this the rest of my life if I want to. Like, this could be
Exactly.
something I do, like, like this is my hobby I'll do forever. Like, like the old people doing their little like cross country skiing, that'll be like us riding our dirt bikes. So
Yeah.
I do like that because another thing with like the GNCC side of things is like when I got into riding, I did like it was called She Camp, and it was coached by like four of the GNCC girls, which was really really cool and a really really cool experience. But I was like the oldest person there. Like everybody there
Mhm.
was like a teenager or like a child, and I was like, this is really cool because like I was close. I was the same age as like the pro girls, or like close to their
Uh-huh.
age. But I was just like, this is like not, like I would like to be around people like my own age, like not like
Yeah.
teenagers like all the time. And like the one girl, she retired and she was my age, and I'm like, okay, like this is not like the vibe for me. I don't think.
You're like, I
So I
feel
do
so
like,
old right now.
yeah.
And you're not old. Like I just turned 35. Like, and I'm
I'm
just
I
getting into
just
this. So,
I'm 30. I'll be 31 in July.
yeah.
But yeah,
So
everyone
like,
like,
I mean, you're not old, but like I get that feeling though, like but it is different in hard enduro. Like I mean, it's a lot to put on your body, but it is something that you can do. It's just a style of riding, right? Like you could go out on the trails and ride hard enduro. That's what a lot of us do to train for these races, and um it's a lot of fun. But I feel like it's safer than doing like motocross cuz like I like that's I don't know. I feel like it's safer. Yeah,
I
I
think
understand
I
we go
think
through like
so.
some gnarlier stuff and like some of these guys are like doing some insane things, but overall it is safer. Like cuz you're
Mhm.
not going at like breakneck speeds most of the time.
Mhm.
Most of the time.
That's
But
like that's what I think too, and I think that's like since I started in my late 20s, like I was not
mhm.
like my prefrontal cortex is fully developed. I'm not trying to like do anything crazy right now. So I think like that's part of it. Like when you're young, like you kind of want to go fast. And not that
Yeah.
I obviously want to be fast, be able to work on my speed, but I think like you see the risk when you get older. You're like, I have a
Yeah.
job. Like I can't just like I have a job. I can't go this crazy. So I totally
Yeah.
agree. Like you know, jumping 40 feet in the air, there's only one way to come down. And if you mess it up, there's some consequences to that.
Yeah. Yeah, the amount of back injuries that I've seen in the last like year in motocross is just absolutely insane. Like I follow like four people who have been partially or fully paralyzed in the last year. And I know of a girl who last year, at the beginning of the year, broke her neck and like spent, most of last year coming back from that. Like thankfully she wasn't paralyzed, but like, there's a lot that happens in motocross and like I think again, me personally, the worst injuries that I've heard of, other than like a few broken bones, is like most people like tear an ACL. And like that sucks. And I get it. Like any injury sucks in general, but
Hmm.
like, it's not as life altering as that. Or like when I was living in Minnesota, there was a kid who actually died at the motocross track because he
Oh
took a
my
jump
God.
wrong and landed. And when he landed, he broke his femur and it severed his artery. And so he bled out before they even got the chopper out there. And like that's terrifying.
Hmm.
Like absolutely terrifying. And I was around motocross and supercross prior to getting into dirt bikes. And so I saw a lot of really gnarly crashes where people are just so high speed and like, oh, they took a crash, they broke their clavicle, their all, like every bone in their arm and their hand, and they broke their leg, you know, like that's common with those kinds of speeds, and it's not as common in hard enduro and things like that we
Yeah.
do, unless you're falling off of mountains, you know.
Unless you
But
fall off a mountain. If you fall off a cliff, that's not good.
yeah,
Yeah.
but typically you're not doing that. Typically.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
totally I
so
totally agree.
it's I a lot of it does come back to like what you were saying about like mindset, right? Like you have to really visualize yourself doing these things, and that can help you get through a lot of it. And that was my issue this weekend, was I was visualizing myself falling off of the side of the mountain again. And you know, just how steep it is on both sides. Again, it was really far away, but it was just too close for comfort, and
Mhm.
after having my experience. But like I said, the guys were really good about like, hey, like, you know, try and do this and try and do this. And I was like so in my head that they're telling me things that I already know to do. But because, like, for example, at this one point, I was stuck on a rock, right? And like I had to just like give enough of my clutch, let go of it enough to where I could just roll over the rock. But I was so terrified about losing control and like sending my bike or myself attached to the bike over the side that was again 5 feet away. Um then I was just being a big baby about it, and I could not make it over the rock, I could not make it over the rock, and I'm like, if this was flat ground, I would have had no problem because I would have just, like,
Mhm.
got on the bike and I would have just zapped right over it and it wouldn't have been an issue. But because I was so afraid of that, like, 2 seconds of giving it extra power over me not having my feet on the ground, like, it just screwed me up. And
Mhm.
they were, like, trying to coach me, and I was, like, feeling really bad because I was like, "I know, guys, I know what you're telling me, but, like, there's more to it happening up here."
Yeah.
And, like, they were so great, though. They were so patient, and they were just, like, trying to help me through it, and it was awesome of them. They did really great. But you do have to overcome that mental side of things. And what I usually do and what I'm usually amazing at is telling myself what's the best that could happen. And instead of saying what's the worst that could happen, because it is that 2 seconds of visualization that you get, right? As you're coming up to an obstacle, I say, what's the best that could happen? And I see myself doing it and I can do it. And for whatever reason, all of that went out the window on this exposure. Everything else we did, like once it was like 2 track and there wasn't as much exposure, I was feeling better about it. I started to get my speed up and things like that. But on those couple spots, it was just because it was so high up that it just completely messed me up.
Mhm.
And like going back and like looking at the video and like listening to myself talk to myself, I'm like, I was scared. I was really scared. So, but it was a really good experience, and I'm really glad that the boys put me through it because I I overcame it, you know, like I'm not going to love it the next time I go to do it, but I'm going to know that I had a better experience and that I can make it through. And I hope that I'll be able to commit to those lines and like actually make it through, because there's no reason why I shouldn't. Skills wise, it's not that hard, but it was, like I said, just the mental side of it. So,
Yeah, that's, like, something I'm, like, trying to work on this year for sure is just, like,
mm,
the mental part of it because, yeah, like, I think, like, when you have an experience that turned out bad, like how you did when you fell
mhm,
off the cliff, it's just, like, you might not even be thinking about it, but it's just, like, wired in your
it's
brain
there.
after that. So it's like
Yeah.
you and the only
Mhm,
way to get through it is to get through it, is to do that repeatedly. So, like,
mhm.
that's how I was. I broke my leg on a log going probably 5 miles an hour, and it was just, like, a weird thing, like, my bike just, like, kicked out, like, when I went over the log, it was just, like, a
Yeah.
slick I don't even know what happened. I don't even know if it was like a wet log or something. Something happened where my bike just like kicked out, smacked my
Yeah.
smacked my knee in a weird way, and my leg broke. Like my tibia, the top of my tibia broke, and that was a great
Oh,
experience. Yeah, yeah. It was such a weird accident because I was literally going 5 miles an hour trying to get over a log.
yeah.
But after that, I just like with logs in general, like just freaked me out so bad. Like I was just like every
Mhm.
time like a log like this big, I would just be like, oh my gosh, like I'm like so scared. It like took me a long time to get through that. So like now I'm like
Yeah.
that's like one thing I really want to work on is like committing to obstacles. Like I can get over stuff,
Mhm.
but I want to be able to like commit to it. Like feet on the pegs, commit to the
Yes.
obstacle. So it's
Yeah.
definitely like a huge mental thing because like I know I could get over the log. I know how to like compress and like blip throttle and go right over the log, but like and I can do it in my yard. Like I have like stuff set up in my yard, but like when I'm on the trail and I come up to a log, I like have to like get myself like ready for it. Like I can't just like, okay, like I'm gonna get over this. So that's like
Yeah.
something I'm trying to work on. Although I haven't really rode that much this winter because it's been so snowy. Like the last few
Yeah.
years since I started riding, like we barely had like any snow. If we had snow, it would just like go away. And this year,
Mhm.
it's just finally like melting. So
Mhm.
I'm like so anxious to get back on the bike, so anxious and work on stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
like my that girl Georgia was saying, she got studs on her tires, which is like something that like a lot of people do, and I'm sure like
Mhm.
I don't know. You're from Tennessee
No,
originally?
so originally I'm from Arizona, but I lived in Minnesota and North Dakota.
Oh, so
But
yeah,
I
you know
did,
about the snow.
yeah. And in North Dakota, like everybody studs their tires and they go ride on
Yeah,
the freaking rivers. Like they ride on the ice. Like I that terrifies me. I was like,
yeah, that
nah, I'm good.
like I'm good. So thanks. Yeah, so
But
some people do it
they're
here.
yeah, they're insane because like in North Dakota, the average temperature during winter is like 0. Like that's the
That's crazy.
average. Like those dudes are out there in like -10 degrees and they're still riding. Like I was like, you guys are nuts, dude. Dude, I won't even go outside in that. Like,
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
I'm
day I bought my dirt bike, it was a -67, and I was like, they wouldn't let me
my
take it
god.
home because they're like, if it goes outside for too long, all of the rubber seals are gonna break. You're gonna have to replace every seal. So just come back when it warms up. And I was like, when it warms up, it's January in North Dakota. And I was like, that'll be like June. And I was like, how warm does it have to get? And they're like, ah, it just has to be like above -20. And I was like, oh, okay, that's not too bad. So like the next weekend I was able to go pick it up. But then I didn't ride it. I wasn't able to ride it until I ended up leaving North Dakota in February and I moved out to California. And that was the first time I rode it was February last year. So I've been riding this bike, the Husky, for a year now. So
How do
and
you
I'm
like it?
still just as in love with it now as I was that day. Like I absolutely love it. It's the love of my life, truly. Like it is it's taught me a lot. We've been through a lot. We've been all over the country together. But it's just been absolutely perfect. I mean, it was not set up for me in the beginning. I ended up getting my suspension done like I don't know, like 12 hours into it and then I have done little things here and there. But part of this is like I have been mostly on my own during this whole journey. I started learning when I was married, but I didn't get very much seat time, like maybe 4 hours a year for those first couple years. And then we got divorced and I was like I want to keep riding. I don't know how to do this on my own. But I had a little TTR 125, so I didn't really have to do very much other than oil changes to it.
Yeah.
And then I got the new bike and I was like, okay, now I have to start learning. But you don't know what the heck to do to your bike if no one's ever talked to you about it before. If no
Yeah.
one's ever, if you have no experience with it. So I started like when I went on CW2 training and I started like trying to learn on there, we talked about bike setup and like I was like, oh, okay, these are things that I didn't think about. So that was really cool. I had, a clinic with Jarvis where he looked at my bike and he told me some things I should do. And, I've just been like picking up little things here and there because I have no idea. Like I ride a lot, but I don't have any clue like to go on YouTube and be like, there needs to be a like maintenance 100% for my bike, specific year, model, everything, to know every single little bolt and everything that I need to do to that bike to keep it completely and totally maintained. And like, if you're not somebody who's mechanically inclined, you're not going to know all that stuff.
Mhm.
And so now I'm starting to get in with a group of guys who are like really looking at my bike and they're like, Angel, you need this. Angel, you need that. And like, are you doing this? And I'm like, I didn't know I was supposed to. Like all of these things. So it's really cool that these guys are taking their time to help me. And like, I didn't know, for example, that you're supposed to drill out your moose in your tire. So I was riding on a super hard moose and they were like, dude, no, this is terrible. Like, let's fix this for you. And so they drilled it out for me and they put a new tire on for me because I had one. And so like it's really cool to get that kind of like support and they're showing me what they're doing. So they're not just doing it for me, so that way I know what to do going forward.
Mhm.
So like that's huge for me because like I'm on my own all the time. Like I need to be able to do these things, but having
Yeah.
someone show me, like, these guys are gold in my book. Like anyone who helps me improve myself on the bike and improve my bike, golden hearted, perfect people. Like, because my bike is my world. Like it's just me and that bike, and we go all over together. And he's, like I said, the love of my life. So it's just gonna. I want him to be as good as he can be and do as well as he can do in the things that I'm gonna throw him into. I love that bike and the fact that he still works so well, even after falling down the mountain. Like when I got back on him and he still
You
worked,
guys
I was
are
like, oh my
trauma
gosh,
bonded right now. You're
we
trauma bonded.
totally are. 100%. That bike and I have been through so much together. And like I couldn't touch the ground on it for the longest time. I just put I dropped it an inch in December, like after my fall. Late December I dropped it an inch, and so I've been riding on that and it's been really nice. Highly recommend to any short ladies, just do it. Um it's really improved my confidence a lot and improved my abilities on the bike because I can touch a little bit better than I could before. Still can't touch
Mhm.
very well. Like I cannot be fully seated on the bike and put a foot down. I still have to like go off to the side and do the whole super cool thing like that, but it still
Yeah.
helps a lot for confidence. Just being able to stop and know I'm not going to fall over, because if I had been on that ridge without my bike being lowered, I would not have been able to do it because I wouldn't have been able to touch the ground enough to get going um
Mhm.
in the very beginning, and I would have just lost my balance and then I would have fallen off the ridge.
Mhm.
But it's, I had to suck it up because I was being stubborn, and then I had a lot of people start telling me to just do it and try it, and I'm really glad that I listened to them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a very um what's the word? Like people have a lot of opinions about like lowering your bike and and it's funny because
It's
it's like usually
controversial, yeah.
it's controversial for sure because you're just
Yeah.
like you can lose ground clearance, but then like
Mhm.
gaining the confidence to touch the ground is like super important. Like,
Yeah.
not constantly tipping over is also important
Yeah.
to not be completely picking up your bike over and over just from tipping over is so exhausting too. Like when I
Oh my
first
god,
started
right?
riding, especially,
Yeah.
yes, those are like it's like I was always so sore from just like picking up my bike like off the ground.
Mhm.
That's like one thing because my bike. I had a 150, and that's like one of the tallest bikes there is
Yeah.
because it's so light,
Yeah.
and because the PDS suspension on KTM's are taller too. So like I have the 300 XCW. Like my bike's a little bit taller
Mhm.
than like a 300 Husqvarna because the
Yeah.
suspension is PDS. So like, but it
Mhm.
is a little lower than the 150 just because it's heavier. But I shaved my seat down. Like I like literally took a bread knife and I like cut it. I used a bread knife and I like sawed it. It's like so it's like not comfortable at all. But I'm like, I don't this will like teach me to not want to sit down. You know, it'll train me to not
Yeah.
sit down. But I can
Yep.
like touch pretty well. I'm like 5'5", so I'm like not I wouldn't consider myself short, but I'm definitely not like tall. So like
I think
definitely
you're
have
tall.
nice. How tall are you? Five? You say you're 5'2"?
I'm 5. Just 5.
5 foot? Oh yeah, that's what my sister-in-law. She's
Yep.
5 foot even. Yeah, like even if you
Yeah.
lower your bike, like you lowering your bike, you getting a shaved seat, you're still having less touch than me on a stock bike. So
Yeah.
it's just like for someone like you, like it makes sense to lower your bike. Like you, it's just like
Yeah.
it is crazy. Like my sister-in-law, that's what that video we posted of her like jumping on the bike. Like she like
Yep.
exaggerated it for the video, but like it is so
Yeah.
funny to see her like jump on her bike all the time like that.
That's what
You
the
just have
guys
to
all my guy friends are like, "Dude, it is hilarious watching you get on your bike." I'm like, "Shut up." Like, just let's go ride. I don't wanna talk about it. Like
yeah. The nice thing if you're shorter is like you have that lower center of gravity. That is nicer. Like, you know, when you're like
so
closer to your bike.
So it's really funny though because like I've posted videos of me doing like hill climbs or going over logs and stuff, and the angle that some of the videos are at, people are like, "You need to be standing when you do that." And I'm like, "Dude, I am standing. It's just that my butt is like this far off of the freaking seat."
That's
Like,
so
but
funny.
sent I sent a picture, a still from 2 videos that I had taken where I was sitting in one and I was standing in one. And because he was like, dude, you need to stand when you're going over stuff like that. I was like, I was standing in that video. Like, I will show you. Literally, I did both of them. Like, one I did sitting and one I did standing. And he's like, I don't see a difference. I was like, I know. Like,
That's so funny. Yeah, for
oh
me,
my
like
God.
I'm not super tall, but like for some reason, the way I'm built, I have like such a short torso. My legs are like 75% of my body, which is nice for riding dirt bikes. Like I'm
For
glad I
riding,
have
it's
this build.
great.
Yeah, because I could like dab and stuff, but like I feel
Yeah.
like I like definitely stand up too tall sometimes. And I like, you know,
Yeah.
like my center of gravity is not where it should be. Like I'm not good at like staying that attack position when I need to. So like
Mhm.
when I like watch my sister-in-law, like she just has such like a perfect riding position, like naturally we're like perfect. And she's been riding longer, and she
Yeah.
just has like a more consistent riding style than I do. But like watching her on bikes, like she's like she fits on it better. I don't know why. Like even though she's short, it's just like she has like the perfect like square elbows. Like she's like hinged at the hips, but like for me, I feel like I really have to like hinge over. I don't know why, because I'm like
Yeah.
not that tall, but I guess because my legs are a little bit longer. I don't know. That's so funny. With like the gap on the seat.
Dude, oh my God. You'll have to
It's
go
so
back and
funny.
look at,
I need
like,
to look at
some of my
that.
videos, and you're just gonna laugh now. You're gonna be like, "Oh my God, I see it." Because it's really not much difference at all. Like, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And but it does make a difference, like, as far as, like, if, like, getting thrown around on the bike, it does make a difference in that, yes, because I'm not bumping up off the seat and I'm not getting bounced around as much. But I'm just so small that I get bumped around no matter what, and I've really, like, struggled with it out here because every hill climb out here is technical, and there's just rocks everywhere, and you're bumping around and your back end's kicking out all the time. So, like, even the small hill climbs are rough out here, and like I said, a lot of the rocks like to explode underneath your tire. Uh, but it's teaching me, like, when I first started riding out in Kingman, it taught me that I have muscles like in my back and my sides that I didn't know that I was going to have to use in my life because they've all been sore since I started riding out here, because there's a lot of like having to move on the bike that I didn't have to do before. And like that's something that I've had to learn, and being so small, I have to kind of overcompensate because I don't have a whole lot of weight to throw around on the bike. And
Hmm.
so to like sometimes to stay upright, it looks like I'm falling, but that's just me balancing. And it kind of scares people sometimes, but but then like after riding with me a couple times, they start to realize like what's actually falling and what's me just like my bike is off to the side like way farther than it should be probably, but that's the only way I know how to compensate for it. So,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, like as I ride more and as I'm training and um building to my goals and the things that I want to do, it means that I'm still losing weight. So right now I'm 135 pounds, and like what's projected for like the next 6 months is probably going to end up with me losing another 15 to 20 pounds. I'm going to weigh like nothing on that bike. And like I I'm a little bit worried about it. Like some of these hill climbs that I'm doing, like you really have to have weight on the rear tire. So it's kind of hard because then it's like I don't have enough weight to have it if I just drop my heels. So then sometimes I have to sit and then I'm getting bumped around again, like we just talked about. And so it's like I don't know what the best way to combat that is, other than maybe
Yeah.
I just need to keep eating a lot and not lose any more weight.
Mm. Well, I will say, like, that's one cool thing with, like, watching because we got to ride with Danny Lewis a few times, and he is a
Yeah.
smaller rider, which is
Mhm.
funny because he commented to just grow when he's, like,
Oh
not that
my
much taller
god.
than me.
He's
But,
like,
like, him
just
and
don't be short. And I was like,
yeah,
sir.
yeah, so, like, him and Ryder are both, like, smaller riders, just,
Mhm.
like, in height and stature for sure, and,
Mhm.
like, it's crazy, like, I don't know how they do it, like, they because, like, for me, like, I feel the sa like, there's so many times where like, my husband, like, he's, like, over 200 pounds, so, like, he can, like, weight his back tire, get that traction whenever he
Yeah.
needs to, and, like, for
Yeah.
me and I'm like, I don't have that, you know, I don't have that
Yep.
ability to do that, and yeah, it's just I
Yeah.
don't know, like, how they it is cool to see people who are, like, smaller ride because they do have a way different riding style. Like, watching them ride
Yeah.
is like I'm like, "You're, like, close to size to me, but, like, how are you doing all this stuff? I don't understand."
Yeah, exactly, like, Crystal loves moto, she's tiny, and so I
Yeah,
love
she's
watching her ride because she is very, I think she's, like, 5'2", and so she's a little bit taller than me, but she's very close to my height, and
mhm,
she's just freaking rocks it, dude, and she weighs, like, 3 pounds. So, seeing the stuff that she can do, it's like, "Okay, there's a way to do it, I just might have to have some sort of modification." So
mhm.
like, that's why I love doing, like, in-person clinics. That's why I'm, like, so excited. I'm glad you brought up the, Danny, and I really want to, like, learn from, like, him and Ryder because they are, like, the shorter guys, like, right?
Mhm.
And, like, I think they're super tall, but whatever. You know, but it is nice to learn from people who have had that supposed deficit, and
Mhm.
I wanna learn from Crystal, I wanna learn from people who are I wanna learn from everybody because 'cause I'm a nerd and I like to learn different styles, um, but, I think that it would be very beneficial coming from people who've had to overcome that height disparity,
Yeah, that's, like
um
that's definitely something, like, he, like, gave us, like, tips on last time,
Yeah.
other than just grow taller. Because, for him, yeah, like, he's a little bit shorter than Ryder is, and, you know,
Mhm,
like, balance is, like, so important, um,
mhm,
and he just, like, showed us, like, things like, you know, on a hillside, if you feel like you're gonna high side, like, just throw your bike down and jump off because you're gonna waste so much energy. Wait, no, sorry, other way around. Backtrack. Throw the bike on the hillside. and jump down. Which I've never done this before, but yeah, if you're like on a hillside and you feel like you're in a high side, throw your bike into the hill so your bike doesn't tip
Yeah.
over upside down downhill, and then you're wasting so much
Yeah.
energy trying to get that bike. He's like, it's better for you to
Yeah.
jump down the hill because like you could just come back up versus letting your bike tip over. Because I've done it all the time. Like my bike tips over, I'm like, see ya. I'm gonna let it go down the hill. But he like throws the bike up and jumps down, which like I've never done
Yeah.
it. I don't know what that's like, but like for racing, like you need to preserve as much energy as you can. And that's what he like really
Yeah.
talked about is like, yeah, like something might like like when you're just riding around, you might do something different. When you're racing, it's all about like preserving energy
Mhm.
because you're out there for hours. Like it's 4 or
Yeah.
5 hours. Like you need to conserve as much energy as you can. So like stuff like that, like
Mhm.
you're gonna try to like save that energy where you can. But yeah, it is cool
Yeah.
seeing his writing style is like so cool to see.
Mhm.
He's like another one where like he just like has no gravity. He just like floats. Like he just like jumps and just floats in the air. Like I'm like, how is this possible? But
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love learning from people, and like this weekend, it's really funny that you said that because this weekend, my buddy Reagan was just saying the exact same thing. I took this really stupid line and I got stuck. And then I had to pick up my bike like twice and I was just like in a really weird spot. My tire was like stuck, my rear tire was stuck. And he was like telling me like sorry, something just hit the side of the RV. I think it was the dogs. Hold on.
it's spooky.
Oh yeah. Okay. The dogs are fighting and they're hitting the side of the RV. It
I'm
was like it was
scared.
super loud and I was like, what just happened? Okay, sorry.
No, you're
um
good.
what was I saying? Oh, so my
Oh, you
buddy
just got yourself
Reagan
stuck.
was telling me, yeah, he was saying that like he's like, "Yeah, you got yourself like don't always take the hard line." And I was like, "I wasn't trying to take the hard line. I was trying to take the easy line. It looked easier to go over the rocks than to like go around and make this turn." And but he said the exact same thing. Like you should be trying to preserve energy. Like if you're doing hard enduro, like every bit of energy that you can save is going to be needed somewhere else down the line. So like don't take the hard line on the single track, or, when you're getting into single track, because we were going from two track to single track. And yeah, it was really funny that you just said that because I was just told that this weekend. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh
and
yeah, okay, cool.
I personally take if there's a line that's the hardest, I will take it, not on purpose. Like I literally like for some reason my brain just is like that looks like the
Mhm.
easier line, and then Josh would be like,
Yep,
that was the hardest line you could have picked. I don't know why you picked that. I'm like, I don't know why either. I
I
just
do
looked at
that.
it. I just felt like it
I
was the
do the
best
same
one.
thing. My friends are like, dude, why did you go over those rocks when you could have gone like around them? And I'm like, first of all, it wasn't hard. Second of all, I don't know. It just seemed easier. Like, I don't know. I
Yeah,
always end up doing that. But in this specific case, it looked like an easy line
yeah,
and it just wasn't. So,
yeah.
but he was just like the look that he gave me. I was like, dude, just don't even. Like
I've
but
definitely
no,
been there.
it was good though. Like it was awesome to like learn those things, like have somebody say those things to you, as you're going through it. Because it's like something I know, like don't be dumb, like save your energy, right? Makes sense. But when you're in that moment and you're like, sometimes you just need that reminder. And for the whole rest of that way, we were going down this super gnarly, super gnarly hill climb. For me, it was gnarly. It was a lot of exposure, it was a lot of downhill. There was a point where I had to like crawl my bike around this like rock and it was like single track, and I was like, oh my God, oh my God. And I was like, I knew something was coming up because I could see the guys like up like on a turn. I could see them and I was like, I had slowed down and I was really glad I slowed down and I was able to crawl around. And then they all got excited for me when I made it around. And later they were like, yeah, we knew you weren't gonna like that. I was like, thank you. Thank you for not like my biggest thing is I hate when people stop before an obstacle and like tell me about it. They make me stop first of all, so then I lose all my momentum. I get in my head
Mm-hmm.
about it and I overthink it. So the guys were really great about stopping after obstacles to see if I could get through it. And then, like, if I needed help, they would come back. So
Yeah.
I like that personally a lot better.
Yeah, I feel like that makes more sense because when you stop and it's like, oh, I didn't even think this was going to be that bad, but now that you stopped and like told me about it, now I'm like scared.
Yeah, like sometimes like that happened to me one time in North Carolina. They stopped me before like this it's a pretty steep drop in and then you go up the other side and they stopped me before it and then I couldn't get going again because I couldn't touch the ground to start going. I just kept falling. I
Mm-hmm.
think I fell like 3 times. And then I fell down the face of it the one time because
Oh
I
my
couldn't
God.
get started. And I was like, "Okay." Thankfully, there was a tree. See, I miss my trees. There was a tree and it caught my bike for me. So the bike didn't end up on top of me, but had the tree not been there, the bike would have definitely landed on me and it would have been really bad.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, I after that I told those guys, I was like, "Stop after the obstacle or like 10 feet before it because I need to have time to get back on my bike and put my feet on the pegs like
Get set up
as of
for it.
right now, yeah, as of right now, my skill set is I need at least a bike length to get back on my bike and be set ready for whatever it is that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I know I'm not always going to have that in the future, but that's what I need right now. Now, present day, it's more like half a bike length, which is great. And I'm working on like improving my balance and everything so that way it can be just from a dead stop, excuse me, that I can start and go and just have the balance to be able to just balance and then just go. So,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to having a foot down and then going from there. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's all about comfort.
Yeah.
So, um yeah, it's kind of it kind of all goes back to mindset though, right? Like being comfortable and all of that it goes back to the visualization and what you can and can't do. I have a hard time visualizing me making it if I'm directly in front of the object. Like if
Yeah.
I have to go up this thing immediately, like I need just a tiny little bit of a run in right now. Um but that's just a lack of seat time and a lack of confidence in myself. So which I'm improving both. So
Yeah,
hopefully it works out.
definitely. Yeah, especially because you're riding so much. Like, seat, they always say seat time. That's like the best
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
I on this bike, I have put in 88 hours now. So, in a year. So, I'm pretty proud of that. It's more than I've ever
Yeah,
ridden in my entire life.
that's awesome.
Um, but I'm out trying to train, you know, 4 or 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. And so I'm just doing like clutch drills and braking drills and things like that and trying to expose myself to weird little things, trying to practice like lock bar turns and things like that. So I know that I'm starting from a detriment. I'm older. I didn't ride growing up and all of that stuff. So I'm starting from like square negative zero, like -5, and I need to get to 0 before I can even start improving was like what my mindset has been the past year. So I've been pushing really hard to build all these skills because, like I said, I had no concept of balance before. And so balance has been a really big thing. A lot of static balance practice, a lot of slow drills to build that balance. And I don't have the best balance, but I like to think I have a pretty decent balance now because I'm not falling as much as I used to. So I think it,
Mhm.
I think it helped.
Yeah. Yeah, I think whenever like I first started riding, I was like so excited about it. But like the more you get into anything, the more you see like how much you don't know. So like the more you
Yeah.
get into it, you're like even if you are improving, it's just because you're like more into it and you're riding with people who are like better than you. You just like don't it's like hard to
Mhm.
stop and say like, well, like look at how I did last year compared to now. Like
Yeah.
compare it's hard to like look just at your own progress because like, if
Yeah.
I'm like around people who are like really good and I'm just like, man, I'm the worst one in this group. But it's like everybody in this group is improving, first of all, and then like look
Yeah.
at yourself last year or like when you first started riding. So it's like it is hard. And I do feel like personally I am somebody that it does take me a while to learn things. Like
Mhm.
dirt bikes have not can't come naturally to me at all,
Yeah.
which is just like
Yeah.
so funny that it's just so crazy like how obsessed, like I'm sure you relate, you just get so obsessed
Yep.
with it because it's like did
Yeah.
not come naturally. Like I did not grow up riding a dirt bike at all. Like that was
Mhm.
something that like nobody in my family has ever ridden a dirt bike. And like even
Yeah.
motorcycles, like my family, nobody rode anything. And like I started late 20s, so it's like the same thing where, like you're starting whenever people, like I said, there were some people retiring my age. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
it's definitely it's just crazy like how you can get into something like this. And he's like, you have the same experience. Like we're not the only people who feel this way. And like,
Yeah.
you start later in life and you just become like obsessed with it. Which is so funny because
Yeah.
like you really think about like people who know us like before this and you're like, wow, like they really got into dirt bikes. But it is just like
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about it. It's just like I think if you're like someone, it's probably just like a certain personality type that like
Mhm.
maybe a little bit ADHD. I don't know. I know I have ADHD, and I know a lot of people who ride dirt bikes have ADHD. I don't know what that's part of
Yeah.
it. But like, yeah, there's just like something about it that just like makes you so obsessed. Even if you're like the worst ride ever, and you just like felt so like man, like why do I even ride? Like after you're like, I want to do that again. Like I'm ready to. I want to do it again.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It's that type 2 fun. Like, I struggled so much on, like it was, like, 2 hills that I struggled a lot on, and then the rest of it, like, I was, like, shaken after that because I hit my chest really hard with the bars on the first time I went down, and I, like, knocked the wind out of myself, and, like, I have a huge bruise right here on my chest right now.
Oh,
Um
it's sketchy.
and kinda like it rocked me though, like, I had hurt myself and I was like, "Okay," like, now I started playing it safe, and that's when I started making more mistakes instead of just trusting, like I
Mhm.
said. Um, but I think that, like I don't remember where I was going with that now. As something along the lines of what you're talking about was, like, about improving, right? So improvements, I wouldn't have been able to do this a year ago. I wouldn't even have looked at this stuff 6 months ago. Like, I would have looked at Jawbone and been like, "No, guys, I'm not doing this. Like, I am not going up any of those hills. Like, they're too big. I'm too scared." I was terrified of downhill in August, and I just started doing like downhills because I knew I needed to if I ever want to get to the goals that I'm trying to hit.
Mhm.
And I've tried to do things that scare me, and it's really cool that this group of people that I found out here um is the same way. It's like you said, like there's something about all of us, but these guys that I've been riding with, they all have this drive and this push to improve, and they're all at different levels. They're like, B riders, A riders, and then there's little old me, and they're giving me like so much encouragement, so much support, telling me how well I did because in comparison to the lines that these guys are doing, I'm not doing hardly anything, but they're keeping it in perspective for me. Like, no, look at what you're doing. Like, this isn't easy. Like, this is some tricky stuff, and it's really it goes back to that whole community. Like, we have the best community in hard enduro, and they're willing to help, and that's the best thing is like there's so many people who are willing to turn around and help you, whether it's to give you advice, to physically help you, or in my case, I went from Tennessee to Arizona a few months ago because I had a family member who was dying, and I posted about it because like I was just like distraught and whatever. And um I had so many people reach out, and people who I've met at the races once, maybe twice, and reach out to offer me money to help me get here, and hotel vouchers, and oh well, I've got flight vouchers, and all these things, because this community is absolutely amazing and so supportive. And that's all across the country. That's not just West Coast, just East Coast. It's everybody. Everybody that I've met. I've been around this country. I've met hard enduro riders everywhere, off-road riders everywhere, and they're all just really good people. Well, not all of them, but 99% of them are really good people. There's a bad egg every, now and then, but but it's amazing. And I've never been around such great people in life, and so meeting so many good people is just overwhelming. I always say, so like, I call my bike Happy. He is my happiness. He makes me super happy. Um but like, every time I'm on him, I feel like I'm overwhelmed with happiness. I could be having the absolute worst day. And oh, that's what I was going to say. Um I had a not great time on those couple hills. It wasn't the best that I've ever done. I struggled a lot, but I take it as a learning experience, and I always have fun on my bike. Like, no matter
Mhm.
what, I'm always trying to, like, stop smiling when I get off of my bike, because it was just such a good experience. Doesn't matter how many times I fall, as long as I'm not, like, truly hurt, I'm just stupid happy when I'm done with my ride. I'm just like, and that's again going back to the community. The community, I feel like I've found a whole group of people who feel exactly the same way that I do. And
Mhm.
it's like so great because we all support each other. I mean, you're completely across the country from me, and I feel like you support me so much. And you're always saying stuff, and I'm like over here just like, oh my God, stop. Like,
I feel the same way.
but it's so great. And I don't know about you, but for me, being a woman, we don't always have that kind of confidence that I personally get from a dirt bike. Like, being on my bike, doing the things that I do, conquering the terrain that I've been through, and being able to manhandle a bike, being able to pick it up and do all those things, like you said, being on your own, you in a race, but for me, it's like every day. Uh, Being on my own with my bike, like, that is super confidence inspiring. And
Yeah.
so that's something that I noticed that a lot of women did not have who were in dirt bikes that I was around, at least. Um so I've tried to organize women's rides so women can come out and just build that confidence. See what it's like to have just us women on the trail, and have us have that camaraderie with each other. Yeah, we're smaller. Yeah, it's still hard for me to help a girl pick her bike up, especially because for whatever reason, a lot of women on the East Coast like to ride dual sports. And so when they drop those bikes, oh my God, those are so hard to pick up. So, like, then you have, like, for example, somebody who's new to riding, and then they've never really picked up their bike before because they're usually with a guy, and then they drop their bike, and
Mhm.
now here I'm the one who has to pick up their bike because 'cause they're not used to it and they don't have the
Yeah.
strength and stamina, and I'm, like, over here trying to pick up this, like, 350-pound bike with saddlebags on it and everything, and I'm like, "Oh my God." But the confidence that it gave that woman, and the confidence that I've been able to see improve from other women riding with women, even in just small groups where there's like one or two guys to like be trail daddies or whatever to help in those situations. Um, Women riding with women is just, it's it's so amazing. We're just constantly building each other up. In my personal experience, I know there's other people who have not had that same experience, but in my experience, that's what it is. It's just confidence building, and I want to give that. I felt so much of it after my divorce and after going out on my own. I feel like I'm overwhelmed with happiness and confidence all the time now, and I want every woman to feel like that, and I want every person on a dirt bike to feel like that. So, like, that's why I share all the stuff that I do, because I'm not trying to show off. I'm not trying to, like, I don't have the skills that I feel are needed to post on social media, but I'm inspiring people. And that's like, I just want people to be able to get on a bike and be excited and not feel that they have to be a pro. I've seen women cry because they fell over on their bike and they feel like people are going to be upset with them. And it's
Yeah.
like, you don't have to feel like that. Like, it's okay. Look, I'll drop my bike too. And I just like throw my bike one time. And, she was just like, oh my God, why would you do that? I'm like, because it doesn't matter. Like, it's okay. Like, I've seen Graham Jarvis fall. Lord knows how many times. Like, everybody falls. It's okay. It's
Hmm.
not a big deal. So it's more about, like, we talked about, like, having the mindset to keep going, like having the ability to push through. And especially if you're on a trail, whether it's hard enduro or not, you might still just be learning and on a pretty easy fire road, but it's not that easy to you because you don't have the skills, you know
Yeah.
so having people who are supportive, that's huge to somebody having a good experience.
Hmm. Yeah, I know when I first started riding, like I would get in my own head because I just like was focusing on like what I didn't know. I was just like
Yeah.
focusing on like, oh, I wish I was better. But it's just like learn like
Mhm.
to appreciate like you're always gonna be learning, even if you are amazing of a rider. Like you're constantly
Yeah.
learning, you constantly feel like you're not doing enough or you're not good enough. And you need to improve on like your speed or you need to improve on whatever it is. Like no matter what skill you are, every single person feels like they need to improve because
Yeah.
like even the top hard enduro racers like they still want to win, so they still feel like they have to
Mhm.
improve too. So it's like like you're never gonna have that feeling where you're like, oh, I just feel so confident in my ride. Like I'm just like such a great rider. Like you, and that's the great
Yeah.
thing about it, is like constantly evolving and like
Yes.
growing is like such a cool thing. I think as we like get older, like just being an adult and experiencing that, because I think there's been a lot of discussion about just adults with hobbies, like being an adult and like how important it is to have a hobby and like to work
Yeah.
towards something outside of your work life. Like for me, like I talk to
Yep.
people and they're like talking about like their lives and like their jobs. Like I don't even talk about my job because like that's like a part of my life, but it's just like I care about dirt bikes. Like I'm working because
Yeah.
I like to ride dirt bikes. Like I like my job.
Exactly.
If you ask me about it, I'll talk about it. But I'm like, my life is not revolved around work. Like it's like
Mhm.
it's dirt bikes. It's like that's like all I think about right now in this part of my life. But yeah, it's like so important to have something to work towards, whether that's like dirt bikes or that's like crocheting. I think like both are like,
Yeah.
like whatever it is, like if you're learning and like working towards something and like improving, and you don't have to always have that pressure to improve, but just like enjoy something that's beyond your day to day work, like
Yep.
work and just doing the daily activities.
Yeah.
But
Finding your passion. I think that, like you said, it could be something simple. It could be reading. It could be, who knows what it could be for somebody. But yeah, that's a huge, huge thing. And it's funny because I had a friend who was like, he used to be the dirt bike guy in the group. And he doesn't even have a dirt bike anymore, and he said something to me, like, I think it was last week, and he's like, "Dude," he's like, "watching some of the stuff that you've been doing lately," he's like, It's kinda crazy because like, so my TTR, he had named it Gary the Snail because I was always so slow. Because one day he was like, "Hey, I was wondering when you and Gary are gonna show up." And I was like, "Gary? Who's Gary?" And he's like, "Your bike, Gary the Snail, because you guys are always so slow." And I was like, "Wow, okay." So the name just stuck. Um, so he's like, "Yeah, from the days back when you and Gary were just putting around and holding up the rest of the group." And he's like, "And now look at the stuff that you're doing." He's like, "You've been like all over the place and you ride some incredible stuff." He's like, "Dude, I would never ride that stuff that you're riding."
Oh my
And I'm
gosh.
like, "Wow, okay, cool." Like, that's amazing, but it's about the passion. Like, he's like, "I'm so glad that you found something that you love and you're just doing it." He's like, "You're inspiring people," because apparently he shows my videos to people, which is weird. Um, But he's like, he's like, I've had several buddies who were like, "Oh, dude, like I wish I could be that dedicated," and they're like restoring cars now, or one of them bought a street bike, or like all of these things, and it's just like showing passion. I feel like you were saying, like talking about work, that's a huge, huge thing in culture, right? Is like, I work so hard and this and that, and I feel like we don't talk about passion enough, and especially like in this kind of setting, like something that truly like sets your soul free, at least in my opinion, again, um like that should be something that we should be talking about. Like, why don't more people feel that it's okay to talk about that? I think it's
Mhm.
strange.
Yeah, and I think too, it's like also just having a hobby and not necessarily like being the best at it is something
Yeah.
that I had to learn. Like I still deserve to love dirt bikes, even if I'm not the best at it. Like I still deserve
Yeah.
to, if I want to post dirt bike stuff because that's what I like and that's part of my life. Like I
Yeah.
deserve to do that. Then I don't need to be a certain
Yes.
skill level to do that and feel
Mhm.
like an imposter because like I feel like that like for a long time I'm like, well, like I'm not like that good yet. But I'm like I
Yeah.
post stuff because I'm like I want people who are at my skill level or like less than my skill level because like someone always looks up to you no matter what skill you're at. Like someone's always looking at you like, wow, she's so freaking cool, or wow, he's so cool. Like someone's always looking up to you. So it's
Yeah.
like you deserve to own that hobby or passion. Like you don't have to
Mhm.
be a pro at it. Just you
Yes.
deserve to. That's like something for me that I like had. I think a hard time. It's like, well, once I like do this, once I do my first race, and then I did my race. Like, well,
Mhm.
once I do like top five, and it's like
Mhm.
you're allowed to like something and not be the best at it, and be passionate about
Yeah.
something. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's really a good thing to like articulate. Like, because I was deathly afraid of ever posting on social media. Like, I
it's
knew people
definitely
who would post.
exposing yourself. It's embarrassing,
Yeah.
first of all. Like you just, it's like you're putting yourself out there, like, you're definitely, like, putting yourself out there
Mhm.
for criticism, for sure. Whether someone says it directly
Yeah.
to you in their comments or people are like, "Oh, look at her, like, she's riding dirt bikes," or, like, you're opening yourself
Yeah.
up, for sure.
Yeah, and it's so scary, and for the longest time, I wouldn't do it, and then all of a sudden, I started doing it, and like I said, it started inspiring people, and all these women were like, "I wanna
Yeah.
come ride with you," and I'm like, "Why? Like, I'm not good," and it was exactly what you said, though, it was like that imposter syndrome, right? Like,
Yeah.
I still kinda get it, because like, I was with these guys this weekend, and these dudes are doing these gnarly lines, and I'm like, "What am I doing here?" Like,
I
how did
feel
I
the
get
same
invited to
way.
this? Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, what is happening? I mean, I've ridden with some really amazing, amazing riders, pro riders, and I'm like sitting there going, how did this become my life? Like, 2.5 years ago, I was crying because some dude like didn't love me anymore, and like it was the end of the world for me. And then now I'm traveling all over the place. I'm doing these amazing things. I'm meeting incredible people. And like, I have a really freaking good life now. And it's all because of dirt
Mhm.
bikes. Like, dirt bikes brought
Yeah.
me so much. And it's just like, I just want to share passion with everybody. And like you said, it doesn't have to be dirt bikes, but if it is dirt bikes, we can really be friends. So,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's, like, crazy just to think of myself, like, 5 years ago getting on that bike. Like, I
mhm.
just thought it'd be, like, something I would do, like, "Oh," like, I'm like, "It's just, like, another thing I do," but it
Yeah,
has consumed my
it took
being,
over.
like, it took
Yeah.
over, and it has changed my life so much. Like, it's like I was working a completely different job. I changed my job because I was like, I need weekends off because I wanna ride every weekend and, like, go to races and stuff, and I wanna not have to worry about
Yeah.
that, and then I, like, also thought about, like, well, I wanna make sure I don't work somewhere where if I break something, I could still work, like, I don't have to walk around. So it's just, like, crazy, like, my life is, like the effect of dirt bikes has, like, changed it so much. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, I
It's
think
crazy
it's
like
really
looking back.
cool. Like, yeah. And like, if you could go back and tell yourself like what you would be doing now, do you think you would believe yourself? Like,
Absolutely not. Like I think like because you just like get set in like who you are. I think like you're just like,
mhm,
well, like I'm not a dirt bike rider. I'm this. And like
mhm,
you look at other people like they're a dirt bike rider. I'm not a dirt bike rider. And like yeah, looking back, like I don't even think I would have ever even thought I could do a race, let alone a hard enduro race, which is
yeah,
crazy. And like yeah, just the experiences that we've had and like looking like I would it would just be crazy to like I because I always say like I know I have improved, but like I never feel like I'm like good, you know what I mean? But like
yeah.
looking back, I'm like if I could probably see myself like the stuff I do now, I'd be so like amazed by it. So
That's a
yeah, it is
really
crazy to
good
think back.
perspective. Like, I really like that because I was kinda beating myself up about my ride the other day until I talked to the guys, like, I asked for, like, "What can I work on?" or whatever, and they've all given me, like, major props for this last weekend, and I was like, "Wait, what?" But exactly what you said, like, I think that's a really great point. Like, looking back, that me a year and a half, 2 years ago would have been freaking ecstatic about any of the stuff that I even attempted this last weekend.
Yeah.
Like, I or the weekend before, you know, and I was throwing myself through that creek bed with the guys, like, that creek, I was so wet and cold, oh my god. But, you know, that was all I wanted to do. I saw Erzberg on TV like 10 years ago, and I didn't even know how to ride a dirt bike yet. It would be years before I got a dirt bike. And I was just like, I'm gonna do that one day. Like, that's insane stuff, but I'm gonna do it one day. And, you know, here I am, however, like almost 10 years, 11 years later, and I'm starting to do the stuff that'll lead to crazy things like Erzberg. I'm not saying I'm ever going to ride Erzberg, but, you know, like terrain, like crazy terrain, hard enduro terrain. Um, it's just it's really crazy. So if you could go back, like our time machine little talk here, um, if you could give yourself advice for, like, when you first started riding your dirt bike, what would you say?
That's a good question. I think I would tell myself to just focus on myself and how I'm riding and not think about how I'm riding compared to the group I'm in. Because
Mhm,
every when I first started, I was always the worst rider in the group. Everybody we rode with had been riding for years, and I
mhm,
was just it was just like so like disheartening to be like the worst rider. But like
mhm.
looking back, and especially now when I like ride with other people who have less skill than me, I never think they're a burden. I'm so happy they're out there. I'm so happy to help somebody if they need help. Like I'm just like happy
Yeah,
you're with me.
yeah,
And looking back, I'm like, just don't think you're like a burden. Just, focus on yourself and how you're improving and try to just improve a little bit at a time. And just like have that mindset where like I can get better, I can improve, I am
yeah,
still growing. Like I'm not like stagnant. And I think that's like
mhm,
a big mindset change. I think for me is like because there was like after I broke my leg, I think I did kind of like not got stagnant, but I wasn't worried about improving just because I was
mhm.
like afraid to like just like get hurt and stuff. And I
Yeah,
think like just have that mindset where it's like I can like always improve, like it's possible. I will
yeah,
work towards it. Not just because I want to like have trophies, I want plaques, like just because like working towards something and improving on something is like so like just rewarding, like, in life in
yeah,
general, like, I just feel like when you're, like, working towards something and whether, other people think it's stupid, that's another thing, like, who cares what other people think? Because I
mhm.
remember when I first started writing, like, people I worked with were just like, "That's like, maybe you should stop doing that if you're, like, coming to work and you're, like, all bruised up and stuff, like, you're not very, like,
Yep,
good at it, like, why are you still doing it?" I'm
yeah,
like, just, like, not care what people think, and I think that's, like, one thing with probably how we are is just like we're not gonna like take just because like we're the type of people we're like we can grow like a growth
yeah,
mindset Because some people just like look at
Yes.
their life and this is the way it is. This is how my life will always be. And I'm like, for me, I'm like, well, you can't change. Like, you can work towards something. Like, why not? Why
Yep.
not do it? Why
Yeah.
not just try it? So like, yeah, when people would like just kind of like make fun of me or just like say like, wow, you're like obsessed with dirt bikes all of a sudden. Like, why? Like, this is crazy. You're like obsessed with dirt bikes. I'm like, just to not feel like that, kind of like imposter syndrome feeling where it's just like, yeah, do I deserve to like, be obsessed with dirt bikes? It's just like such a weird thing to think about looking back because now I like can, even though sometimes I still feel that same way. Like
Yeah.
looking back, I was just like so like I didn't even like tell people I rode because I didn't want people to like because then if I told them I rode, then they're like, oh, like do you have any videos and I like stuff like that. So yeah, just to like be more like it's okay to be passionate about riding dirt bikes and like you're gonna who cares what people think, just because like they don't understand it doesn't mean it's not something that's for you and like
Yeah.
just like keep working towards improving and like just go one step at a time. Like you might do good one day, you might have the next ride be bad, but
Yeah.
you're still going to be improving over time.
Hmm. It's not linear. It's
Yeah, it's
not a
never
linear
linear.
improvement.
It's not. Oh, yeah, you'll have a day where you ride so good, and then like you're like the next day, you're like, what the heck happened? What happened?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So then now we're gonna tie into similar question. Um, and now we can talk about the Northeast. What is it? Northeast? Is it
Northeast
gnarly women?
Hardin. Well, because okay, so I
Heart.
changed the name. The name
That's
was like
that's what I thought. I was
the
like,
name.
wait.
So our like I can't change it because I changed it two times within 14 days. Okay, so the
Oh,
handle itself is Northeast. So NE Hard Enduro Women is the handle, but like the
okay.
name on the page still says Northeast Gnar Ladies because that's what we're gonna go with first. And then we decided like,
Okay.
no, we need to do like Hard Enduro. We need to like
Yeah.
commit to Hard Enduro because like me and
Yeah.
Georgia, we're like, there's like nothing specifically with the term Hard Enduro and women like pages,
Yeah.
and I was like, we need to commit to it. So Northeast Hard
Yeah.
Enduro Women because that's like
Okay.
both what we are passionate about. And like
Yeah.
I said, even though I'm not the best hard enduro racer, I'm not, you know, I'm not like
You're
a
still
pro. It's
doing
like
it.
I'm still doing it. So it's like me and her
Yeah.
would just talk about like, we're like, man, I wish like we had a group where we could like ride, like where we could like meet each other, like women especially. Cause
Mhm.
like I have guys I ride, like I ride with Josh and like he has a group he rides with. And like I have my sister in
Yeah.
law and I have some people who ride here and there, but just to, like have a community and also just like show women that like women are in hard enduro, just
Yeah.
like show that this isn't just like a guy sport because it is like pretty male
Yes.
dominated right now. And you see a
Mhm.
lot more with like other styles of dirt bike riding, but I feel like hard enduro in the United States, like there's some of us that are like starting, like you, me, like there's other women that are really like sharing their experience, and I think it's really like getting people interested in it.
Yeah, I think it's so cool. Like, so when I was on the East Coast, the thing that I noticed the most was that there's not a lot of women that ride, period. And then
No.
you take that tiny percentage of women who ride, and then you cut that in like a quarter, and that's women who ride hard enduro or are even interested in riding hard enduro.
Yeah.
And it is a very, very small group of women versus the West Coast, which has a lot more women that ride.
Yeah.
And again, still a small percentage of that want to do hard enduro, but it's still a bigger group of women than it is out here, or out east. Um,
Hmm.
so I saw this page and I was like so excited because when I was East Coast, I could hardly find women to ride with, first of all. And most of the ones that I did find to ride with were just getting bikes, which was awesome. And like I said, was helping to get people comfortable and stuff like that. And but I was also telling them what kind of riding I was working on doing and stuff like that. And trying to spread the word. Um, and it's just like I thought it was so cool when I saw it come up. I was like so excited. Um, but you guys are doing something like giving a community to it, and I think that that's one of the most important things that we need as women in hard enduro in general. Any woman who's interested in hard enduro, it is so hard to find other women to talk about stuff like this, how it is being shorter, how it is being smaller, like how can we set our bikes up different, like what did you do. I loved that whole question about being shorter, um because I know women who are like 5'8" and 5'9" who think that they're short. And they're like, "Oh, I'm a shorter rider." And I'm like, "No, you're not. Get out of
You
here with
are
that."
not. Yeah.
But so it's, height is relative because next to their 6'3" boyfriend, they're short. But, so like I get it, but seeing how many women jumped on that thread and were just like sharing their
Yeah.
tips was just so cool. I was like, "Oh my God, this is awesome." So, on that note, what is your best advice for a woman who's trying to get into hard enduro?
I would, for hard enduro, I would just like start with doing like you could do it anywhere. Like just that's a nice thing with it is you don't need a big space to just practice stuff that will help you in hard enduro. So like in my on the property we have a yard and then we have like a field, and like in
Mhm.
there on the field like I'll do like figure eights and I'll like practice like popping the clutch and like doing wheelies and stuff, and like we have a log, a nice little log to practice on. But I would like just start messing around with that kind of stuff and like learning how to like compress your suspension, and just like clutch control especially. Clutch control is like a huge one. So there's like so much stuff you could do without even like actually riding on your bike. Like balance drills, you can do that in like my bike is in my basement. I could do that in my have I done it? No, but I could if I wanted to. I could do that in my basement. So there's like a
Yeah.
lot that you could just like kind of like ease into, just like balancing, and then yeah, I would just like try to hit some smaller obstacles just to get used to like lifting up at the right time. Um,
Mhm.
and then yeah, obstacles that are like smaller, like work your way up for sure. Work your way
Mhm.
up for something smaller. But yeah, I would definitely say if you're like trying to get into hard enduro to just like do some like practice drills, go on YouTube. There's like some like Rich Larson has a really good channel. Makes Brap has a great channel. Like, like those base skills will like help you with all of that stuff. And then
Mhm.
yeah, just like try like harder terrain, like try like steeper hills than like you're used to. Like for me, like hills, I think for most people, going down hills is like a big mental barrier. It's just like try to like practice going down a steep hill, like practice sitting as far back as you can on the back fender and things
Yeah.
like that. Just things that are like because that's like a big thing with hard enduro. It's just like you're going down some pretty steep hills, so like practicing those and just like small
Yeah.
obstacles at first, just to get
Yep.
used to like the controls, like pop in the clutch, because it is a different. It's gonna be a little bit different than other styles of riding for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I have a lot of GNCC women who are interested in doing hard enduro. So,
That is, oh my gosh, yeah. There's some like yeah. I would like the only one I really see is Rachel Goodish. Like she does the tough like
oh yeah,
four. That's not a four.
Rachel does everything.
She does.
I think
She
if
does
it
that like on a
involves
four
being on a
stroke.
dirt bike, she does it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and she's amazing at it. Like she's so good. And she's on a four
Mhm.
stroke, which is crazy. Like you don't see four strokes with like a tire that has any air in it at all. I don't know what she
Yeah.
runs. Like if it's as flat as, hard enduro, that's like a big thing. That's like a culture shock when you get into like hard enduro. It's like seeing how flat the tires are, how big and squishy they
Mhm.
are. But yeah, I have had like people like, "Oh, like I wanna, like, get into that or, like, think about it." So, I think it's definitely growing for sure for
Yeah.
women, and I think the more women who, like, talk about it, um, and like, share their experience, I think the more women who will get into it. Because I was that way with Josh riding. I'm like, well, that's like his thing. Like I didn't even think in my mind that I could do it. But it wasn't until
Yeah.
I saw Rachel Goodish on the podium, and I was like, it like clicked in my brain. I was like, oh, like I could do that. Like I could ride a dirt bike.
Mhm.
So it didn't click until I saw
Yeah.
another woman doing it. So I
Heck
think that's
yeah.
with hard enduro, it's like starting to, and that's like one thing. Like one thing with hard enduro is like when I met Georgia, I met her in 2023 at Tough Like Roar. I just like said, like I saw, like, we talked about this before, like talking to like other women on the line or like, like going up, it's like way scarier.
Yes.
But it's like more
Yeah.
intimidating than talking to, because like at the end of the day, like I don't really like, it's not gonna hurt me that much if like someone like a guy is just like kind of rude. I'm like, whatever, like I don't like need that. But like a
Yeah.
girl, like I'm like so scared of like the rejection.
Yes.
But
Oh my God, it's real, dude. It's
yeah.
real.
And everybody's so nice too, but I, like, went up to, because I wasn't racing, I was just watching the race, and we were, like,
Yeah.
we were, like, waiting for, um it was, like, the last chance qualifier to announce, like, where you're at in the line. It was, like, they were just standing out there for, like, ever in the sun, and, I
Yeah.
just, like, started talking to her, and I was like, "Oh, like, where are you from?" And she said, like, "Ohio," and I'm like, "That's, like, not that far from me." And she's like, "Yeah, like, this is, like, my Instagram. If you ever wanna, like, ride or something, let me know." So, like, I followed her, and then she, like, didn't, like, follow me back for a while because I don't think she was, like, big on like, a big Instagram person. And then I didn't, like,
Yeah.
think about it, and then, we, like, finally started, like, talking and stuff, and the funny thing is, like, we have actually not rode together yet, which is so funny. Like, I'm like,
Really?
we still have never rode together." Yeah, she lives, like, 3 hours away from me, and she works, like, full time, doesn't have that much, like, vacation time, so, like, I don't know
Uh-huh.
if you've heard of, like, Wellsville, Ohio?
Yeah.
Like, w
Yeah.
okay, that's where she rides a lot, is Wellsville, and,
Oh,
like, we
wow.
were, yeah, she's, like, she does, like, the gnarly stuff, and we were, like,
I was like,
talking,
that's
and,
pretty gnarly is what I was told.
yeah, Wellsville's, like, it's, like, known for the hills being like this, and they're pretty
Yeah.
long hills, which,
Yep.
like, people don't really think about that with Ohio. Like, you don't imagine Ohio to be have that, but it's, like, crazy. Like, a lot of the
Yeah.
pro guys, like, go out there to, like, practice.
Mhm.
There's, like, stuff for, like, all levels apparently there, and, we're always, like, just, like, talk and, like, message each other and, like, "Oh, like, we need to, like, ride together," and then we're talking about, I was like, "Do you have, like, any, like, friends that you ride with?" And she's like, "I used to," and, like, a lot of them, like, kinda got out of dirt bikes, a lot of them, like, had kids and stuff and just, like, stopped riding,
Mhm.
and, I'm like, "Yeah, but, like, I wish we had, like, a community." So we were just been talking about it, and then finally I was like, "What if, like, we just, like, make our own page?" And she was like, "I
Yes.
totally have been thinking about that myself." So, and then my sister-in-law, like, she's been in nursing school, so she's not been running as much, but yeah, there's, like, been
Mhm.
definitely people, like, into the idea of riding hard enduro, but it's like, who wants to do that by themselves? Like, who wants, like, riding by
Yeah.
yourself is like, yeah, it's, like, nice, I don't do it personally, because like, I'll do it once in a while, but, like, it's so much nicer to ride with people that are just, like,
Mhm.
supportive and nice, and that's, like, it makes such a difference, like, the people you're around. If they're just, like,
Yeah.
people who are, like, wanna cheer you on and want to see you do better, like, you will do
Yeah.
better, and,
Yeah. Definitely.
sometimes you just end up in, like, groups with, like, mostly guys, which is, like, fine, like, I like riding with everybody,
Yeah.
but it's just, like, there's just something different when you ride with, like, girls and you get to, like, help each other and
Mhm.
stuff. It's just,
Yeah.
like, a lot different.
Yeah. I absolutely love it. When I started this whole, like the whole podcast, like, helping with, like, doing the, um God, words are hard right now. So when the podcast started with, like, the contests, um, and, like, the first one was for women, right? And so, like, it
Yeah,
got all
there's,
this,
like,
like, interest and
the free,
yep. So 1 free entry for 1
entry.
woman into a hard enduro, and, off of that came this whole TKO thing, and, like, that was this girl, Dana, she really got, like, super excited, and she's like, "Well," she's like, "I know I've been nominated," she's like, "But I don't need you to, like, pay for it if I get it or whatever. She's like, I want to see more women in hard enduro. So we started talking, and she was like, it would be really cool to like pick an event and just like try and get as many women as we can there. And I was like, dude, that's a great idea. Like, you should totally do that. And then we just kept talking about it and talking about it. And then she and I started like thinking that it could really be a thing. And then now we have this whole TKO. It's like gonna be essentially a race team for like just for TKO, and I'm like working on sponsorships for it and everything right now. So Dana had this idea, and we like I just kind of ran with it because she's really busy with all her racing. She does GNCC. She's, very competitive with it, and between racing and full-time work, she doesn't have a lot of time to dedicate to promotion, sponsorship, all of that stuff. So, she and I've kind of partnered up, and she's been working a lot of the uh basically, I guess, the networking side of it. So at her races, she is talking to women. And I mean, she does that anyway because that's just how she is. But she's talking to more women about this idea specifically and about this little team that we're getting together for TKO. And as of today, I think we have 9 women who are going to be brand new or have only raced hard enduro once, who are going to be part of this team from all over the country, and we're all going to be at TKO. And
That's
it's not
so
like
awesome.
the normal women who are there, because like I know like Louise Forsley goes every year. I think Rachel usually goes, and then like I don't know who of the East Coast women go. I think I'm trying to remember who was at TKO this year. I know Sammy was there, and I don't know why I'm blanking on this. I think her name is Nikki was there. And there was only like 5 or 6 women at TKO this last year. But so point is, wasn't that many. And so if we already have 9 plus whoever normally goes, that's already, I think, gonna be more than TKO has ever had women sign up at one time.
Yeah.
So my goal, my hope would be that we can get 16 to 20 women there total. And that would be like hugely successful in my opinion. So like it was really cool that you guys started this up, and I was like, oh my god, this is exciting, because it's getting more women excited for hard enduro. And that's the whole point of this whole thing is going back to what you were saying. It's not fun to do it alone, and a lot of women don't want to do it because, well, there's not really a guarantee that there's going to be another woman there on the East Coast. So
Mm-hmm.
this was kind of my way of making sure that women felt supported and women felt like it's something achievable, because we're going to make it so that there's going to be so many women there. And just because of how we all are, I mean, there's going to be some women that are really competitive, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of us are going to be doing this for the first time. We're all going to be struggling through it for the first time. And I just think it's a really really cool idea that she had, and I'm super stoked to be a part of it. The fact that I can help in any way shape or form to be part of this and make this little blip of history in the world of hard enduro. I think that's so cool. I'm super excited for it.
I think that's gonna be so awesome. Seriously. And I
Yeah.
know I think like US Hard Enduro, that's like one thing they are like working on is like getting more women
Yeah.
into it. And I think just like being a woman into it can get more women into it. So it's definitely
Yeah.
like it's awesome to see. I would love to have
Yeah.
more people on the East Coast do the races compared to like the West
Yes.
Coast. Like you said, there's a lot more women just in general who ride, but like
Yeah.
especially like more like gnarly stuff. So, and I think a big
Yeah.
thing too is like just not knowing where to ride, like not having a place to ride, because that's like one thing
Yeah.
I know like we struggle with where we're at. Is like you really have to like know somebody, like it's like, oh, this
Yeah.
person has like property, or like you can
Yep.
ride here and it's like technically not legal, but like you can ride here. And it's like there's not really like an open like, hey, like here's an arrow, like you can ride here, other than like motocross
Yeah.
or like there's like some ATV parks, but they're ATV parks, so they're like really not super technical stuff. Like some of the stuff is
Yeah.
technical.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's like a big thing with just like having more places to ride and
Yeah.
like if you have a group of women going somewhere if you've never gone somewhere before to ride, but there's a group there, it's like, well, that at least there's people there just in case. Like if you're by yourself,
Exactly.
like who's gonna as a woman, you're not gonna go by yourself in the woods, It's a little
I do.
scary.
I do, and that was my experience, like, it
Yeah.
was scary, and it's not safe, right? It's not super
No,
safe
yeah.
to be anybody out riding by yourself, especially
Mhm.
when you're not. I mean, a pro rider, probably, yeah, but I'm not a pro rider. I fall. I have gotten stuck under my bike before. I have figured out really weird ways to get out from underneath my bike because of this. So I very rarely get stuck under it so far. Um, but I do have a Garmin InReach that I carry with me, so it's, like, on me when I'm out by myself, and I got it when I went to Maine because in Maine, I was riding almost exclusively by myself. I rode with other people, like, 3 times, and then when I went to Tennessee, I finally had people to ride with most of the time, but not always, and then I was riding with people in, like, North Carolina and all over Tennessee, but that's the thing out there is that there's not really public land to ride. Like there is a ton of land out here west to ride, and there's like tons
Yeah,
of
it's not.
options. Everything
Yeah.
out there has to be like you said, it's a park or you have to know somebody. And that's really hard when you're not from there and you don't know anybody.
Exactly, like,
And
who's gonna come to ride? If
yeah.
you might have great places to ride, but you gotta know a guy who knows a guy who knows another
Yeah,
guy, to find
exactly.
where to go, so, yeah, I don't know
And in
why it's like that here versus out there. I don't know if it's, like, the state itself, like, state game land we have a lot of state game land, that's, like, a big thing, like,
mhm,
they protect the forest from, like, big bad dirt bikes. Like, dirt bikes just, I think, in general, have a bad
bad
reputation in our
reputation.
area.
Mhm,
And I don't know if it's like
yeah.
that out there, but I do think, like,
Mhm,
when you think of someone who rides dirt bikes, you think of, like, a teenager, like, ripping in the street or, like, you
mhm.
know but, yeah, like, just young kids, like, kinda like you think of, like, juvenile kids who are, like, getting into trouble. You
Yeah.
don't think of, like, 30-plus-year-old people who are just riding in the woods, not hurting
I just wanna
anybody.
go over some logs.
Yeah, like, so I think there's, like, a definitely, like, a bad reputation just in general. You just think of, like, young people who are, like, getting into trouble. Like, we have neighbors who ride dirt bikes, but they're like teenagers and they, like, rip up and down like, there's a dirt road, they rip up and down, and, like, our neighbors think it's us. And I'm like, "That is not us. We're, like, in the woods going, like, 5 miles an hour, like, trying to go over logs. We're not, like, ripping up, trying to go as fast as
Yeah.
possible."
Mhm.
So,
No, I think it has a lot to do with just, like, how the country ended up being founded and everything, like, there just is a lot more people on the East Coast than there is on the West Coast, so there's a lot less
yeah.
space, so it is a lot more protected,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, there's a lot of no
but
man's
I'm
land out there.
yeah, there's a lot of that. Um, but it is like there's some really cool places to ride out east. Like, you guys do have like Brushies in North Carolina, Doe Mountain. There's Windrock in Tennessee. Windrock is like super gnarly, from what I've been told at least. I didn't actually get to go there. But Doe Mountain has some gnarly stuff. Brushy Mountain has Battle of the Goats, so of course it's gnarly. Brown Mountain is pretty gnarly. Then there's Kairos in Virginia.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be really good. There's that place in Ohio that you were talking about. There's like a few places, but like it's really funny because it's like, oh, it's a state away, or like, oh, it's like, like 3 states away, but then I mean, I drive a lot, so to me, like, 8 hours is nothing, but, um, 3 states is 8 hours out there, whereas 8 hours out here, you're still in the same state. Like,
Mhm. Yep.
so it's kinda crazy how, how things are just so different. Um but yeah, I can imagine it's really hard to find different spots to ride, but that's the other cool part about this page is you're going to give that community and that availability to find new places, not just for other people, but for you as well. Maybe you'll find out that you're really close to something that somebody now you know somebody and you can
Now
go.
I know a guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so, like, in our yard, it's like the woods are behind it. Like,
Mhm.
where we ride is, like, we are able to ride from our backyard, and I think that's, like, hard for me. I'm, like, so spoiled with that, like, traveling to ride. I'm like, "Why am I gonna leave here?
Yeah.
Because I can literally ride there." And then one
Mhm.
cool thing is, like, since we met Ryder and, like, we know, like, his family and stuff, like, his dad rides, and he's
Yeah.
been riding this mountain for
Mhm.
since he was a teenager. So him and his friend that Josh rides with, like, made a ton of single track, and that's where Ryder grew
Yeah.
up riding is this stuff. So it's just, like, funny to be, like to ride this stuff that's, like, really, like, hard enduro, but, like, nobody knows about it because it's, like, technically you're not supposed to ride on it. So, like, it's
Oh,
hard
yeah,
because,
yeah.
like, it's owned by, like, a company from someone who lives in Florida. There's, like, 500 acres, and, like, technically, you're not supposed to ride on it, but, like, it's, like, kind of like like, people still ride on it. You're not gonna get, like, in trouble. There was a point where they cracked down on
There's
people for
nobody there.
riding,
Yeah.
but there's nobody there, but, like, if you get into state game land, it's, like, very strict, and they'll, like, take pictures of you. If you have branding on your bike, your name on it, they're, like, able to find
Mhm.
you and give you a fine. So
Yeah.
it's hard out here because, like, not everybody wants to, like, take that risk where it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, you might not get in trouble, but just, like, why would like, I don't wanna have to worry about, getting in trouble where I ride, so it is hard. That's
Yeah.
definitely a hard part about, like, where we ride at, sometimes, like, 'cause I have other spots in town, like, my brother-in-law's property, like, he has, like, 60
Yeah.
acres, and that's really nice because he's built, like, log matrices and, like, there's, like, creek beds and single track and stuff, so we're really lucky with that because it's 15 minutes
Yeah.
away. So, but it is hard 'cause you gotta know a guy. You gotta know someone
Mhm.
who knows the back trails, or you have to know someone who has property. So, that's why we're
Yeah.
trying to, like, put together that, clinic with Danny Lewis. It's gonna be at my brother-in-law's property because it's nice. That's, like, one thing, if I ever have something go on, I don't want it to be somewhere where it's, like, we're riding if you get a group of people together that you don't know and,
Yeah.
they're on property that's not technically, you're technically allowed to ride on, so I wanted to make sure it's that's, like, no one has to worry about anything.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that's well, it's just safer for everybody in general, so
Mhm.
that's good. I'm so excited for that clinic though. I really can't wait to hear more about it, and I really hope I can get out there for it. That's gonna be really
Yeah, me
awesome.
too. It is gonna be really, really cool. I always have to,
It's so
like, narrow down the date, but it's probably gonna be, like,
yeah,
late June. It's probably gonna be July, honestly, because July has, like, a
yeah,
pretty big gap too with, like, racing, like,
for racing,
there's
yeah.
yeah, like, nothing's really going on in July, so,
Yep.
yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it'll be really cool. I, uh I was talking about it today to a friend of mine at work, and he's like, "You're gonna go all the way to the East Coast for a clinic?" And I was like, "Dude, I travel the country. Like, this is not the worst thing I've done." Like,
Yeah,
I do this stuff all the time. It's my excuse to travel. And like,
yeah.
I had another friend who, my plan, like I said before, is to buy my tickets to Erzberg this week. And so by the time this comes out, I'll have them already, so it'll be fine. Um, but my friend's like, "You're gonna go there to watch the race?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Dude, that's an insane amount of money to pay to go watch a race." And I was like, "Well, I'm not gonna ride it, so,
Yeah.
like, I would maybe survive the qualifier, potentially. More than likely, I would break something on myself, though. So I was like, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna watch it, I'm gonna see how gnarly it is, I'm gonna experience what I've always wanted to experience, and then maybe one day I'll actually end up racing it. But we're talking like a few years in the future. So, because
I
like
think it would be
Erzberg's,
worth seeing for
oh
sure.
yeah,
That'd be so
definitely. And I know
cool.
so many people over there now, like it's going to be really cool to like go and see. Like I met tons of the riders at TKO. And so like I talked to a few of them still. So like it'll be really cool. Like I'm going to go and hang out with some of them, and like they know I'm coming and they're excited, and so it's going to be awesome. You know, it's be a big party. That's what Erzberg is, but
Hmm.
um it'll just be really cool to see it in person and see the,
Yeah, that like the way they like party in the streets, like coming up to it, like
oh my
that
god,
looks
that's crazy.
so much fun
Oh my
itself. That
god.
looks like
I
so
don't
much fun.
It's gonna kill me because like I don't party. I always am like I'm usually in bed really early. Like I don't do things anymore except ride and run and I work. Like
Yeah,
that's my
I
whole
don't.
life. I'm super boring. But
Yeah.
like I'm gonna be there and it's like party central for like those days, and I'm gonna be like thrown into it because I'm pretty sure that we're gonna end up camping like out there. So it's gonna be like
I need to see footage of
24/7
this.
Erzberg full experience. Like, oh
I
yeah,
need like,
no. When
yeah,
I
you have to
go,
do like a
yeah,
vlog.
I'm vlogging this trip because like
Oh, good.
I actually have had people start asking me to vlog like all of my travel. And I'm like, why? It's boring. It's me doing car karaoke in my car for like 12 hours on the way to wherever I'm going. But I need to get a lot better about it because people are asking for it. They want to see it. They want to see
Yeah.
the places that I'm going, and not just the little tiny clips that I'm posting. So like
Hmm.
I'm like, oh man, this is a lot of work that I'm being asked to do. But 100% Erzberg, that's going to be an experience and it's totally going to go up because I think that that's like getting more of that excitement out there, right? Like that we were talking about. Like the more you talk about something, the more people hear about it and get excited about it. And Erzberg doesn't need any help being a bigger event at all. That's not, but me going there and seeing it and being an American who's never left the country and having that be, you know, the experience, I can talk firsthand about what it's like, how big it is versus what I've seen on TV. And, you know, you guys will really see my reaction to it if, you know, I'm filming myself for it. So I have a feeling I'm just going to sit there and giggle the whole time and just be like, this is huge. Like, it looks
Yeah,
huge on TV.
yeah, yeah, and it is like a huge event. But yeah, for the United States, like like if you like ask her in a person, like, do you know what Erzberg Rodeo is? They'd be like, what? I have
Huh?
no idea. What did you just say
No.
to me? Did you just call me? Did you just insult me right now? Like, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
So
it is. It'll definitely like make it. The more exposure it gets. We always joke too, like just the pro hard enduro racers, like they like can go out in public and like nobody's gonna recognize them unless they like specifically watch that stuff. So it's just like
yeah,
funny, like I think that's part of the reason why they're so accessible too, is like because it's not as huge as like
yeah,
Supercross, like Supercross, like way bigger. But yeah,
yeah,
Erzberg, like
that makes sense.
most people don't really even know what Erzberg is, where it's at.
Yeah.
So it'll be really cool. I would love to see a vlog. I'm like excited for it.
All right, it's gonna happen. I will
Let me
make
see
sure
you
that my
roughing
vlogging
it.
skills are up to date.
It is hard though.
But
Like I've like tried like intentionally like vlog, but it's hard to do, like to know when to take the camera
it's
out.
well, and that's the thing too is like I am not a content creator. Like I have a really hard time like taking selfies and stuff like that like out in public. I feel like everybody's staring at me. So like having my phone or like my GoPro and like talking to it like in the airport or something is going to be really bad for my social anxiety. So
Yeah, I feel
I
the
would just
same
like to
way.
preface that like everybody who's asking me this, I'm like, you guys are, oh my god, you guys want me to do what? But I'm gonna do it because I like I said, I just think it's a really good experience. There's a lot of people who aren't gonna get to experience this, at least for a long while. Um, and I'm really lucky that I'm gonna be able to do this. I've worked really, really hard to make this happen. It's been a goal of mine for the last couple years, and I'm making it come true. I'm making my dream come true. This is what I've wanted for I 10 years ago I wanted to go there and see it, but now it's happening. So I'm following my dreams, and I think that's all part of the passion that we were talking about, and I think that that's really the only reason I'm willing to vlog this at all, because vlogging is not my thing. That's why I don't do it. But it'll be good. But that leads me into this question now of, if you could go anywhere in the world, whether it was to ride or to race, where would you go? If it was all expenses paid, you don't have to
All
pay for it.
expenses. I mean, how many things could I choose? It have to be one?
No, one race and then one anywhere in the world, and you just to ride. How about that?
Um, the Hawaiian race seems really cool, even though I don't think I would
Yeah.
get very far if it rained. Like, I don't think I would get very far, but that seems like such a cool experience. I definitely think Hawaii has, like, some crazy terrain, just, like,
Mhm.
in general, like, I heard it's, like, super slick out there, like, extremely slick,
Hawaiian ice is a
which is
thing,
not
yeah.
it's not a different country, but, it would be really cool, like, I'm not probably ever gonna
It's
go to
far for
Hawaii.
you.
Yeah, definitely far
Yeah.
for me. But
Yeah.
I don't know, as far as, like, I think it'd be cool to ride, like, s in Scotland or something like that. Like, I
Ooh,
there was, like
yeah.
there was a guy who, like, was funny. I, like, saw his profile and I was like, "This, like, looks like Pennsylvania," and then I realized he was from Scotland. I'm like, "That's, like, so weird." People always say, like, some parts of Europe look like the East Coast, and
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh my gosh," I thought you lived in Pennsylvania because of, like, the what it looks like, and he's like, "Well, if you ever wanna ride out here, let me know." Oh, and then also, I would like to ride in China because I made a red note. Remember when TikTok went down?
Uh-huh.
I made a
Yeah.
red note, and, like, there was, like, people who were like, "You should come ride in China. It's, like, so cool to ride out here." So I would say China too
Yeah.
is on the list.
That would be cool, yeah.
Yeah, there's, like, hard
I would
enduro in China. It was, like, so cool to see
Mhm.
on Red Note. Like, I was, like, looking, and there's, like,
Yeah.
a lot of, like, hard enduro, so I think there's just, like, a lot of stuff, like, I've never got to even, like, see. As far as
Mhm.
races, I don't even know if I'm built to race in Erzberg. I mean, I'm sure it's, like, how US hard enduro is. It's, like, it starts out doable, and then as you progress, it gets harder and harder. It becomes more, like, impossible things. Like, it seems
Ertsberg
like
is not like that.
is it
Ertsberg is
not like that?
there's, a huge hill at the beginning that, tons of the amateur riders just
And you know
pile
what?
up on.
Now that you say that, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know if I would ever race Harrisburg. And then, there's the Sea to Sky one. I don't know if I would
Yes, in
race that
Turkey.
either. That'd be terrifying. Like, all those viral videos of people, like, just dunking their bikes, submersing it in the water.
In the canyon, yes.
Yes, I'm like, "Why? Why?" Like, I get it,
Mhm.
but why? So I don't know. I mean, there are some, like, cool races. I don't know what they're called. I don't know the names of them, but, like, just, like,
Yeah.
hard enduro that's, like, out in Europe. It'd be cool to, like, race something like that, like what Sandra
Yeah.
Gomez races. I don't know what the series is called
Yeah.
because all her captions are in Spanish, so I don't really know what she's saying. But something like that would
She
be really
sh
cool.
Yeah, she does the world stuff usually.
Okay.
So I think probably one of the last ones you probably saw was the Hispania in Spain, which is really cool. It's one of the I say one of the really cool ones, but I think they're all really cool. So but yeah, I think those would be really awesome too. And those are just Europe has all this history and architecture and stuff, and it's just, to me, the landscapes are so similar to the US in some ways, but then so completely different. So
Mhm.
I just think it's all really cool, and I'm the same. Like, I just wanna go everywhere and ride everywhere personally.
Yeah.
Um, so that's just me, but
I do too. I mean, I haven't really got to travel yet. We're
Hmm.
manifesting that. I'm gonna be traveling at some point.
You
Yeah,
are.
manifesting. Um, but yeah, I would love to just like ride everywhere. Like that's like I would love
Yeah.
for that to be my vacation to just like ride, just to be able to ride
Mhm.
where I want.
Yeah. I've ridden 15 states so far, and I'm really, really lucky to be able to do that. Not very many people get to travel and ride like I have been able to, and I've got I don't know, like 7 or 8 trips planned already for this year, just in the States alone, plus the trip to Erzberg, plus I'm trying to get to Sea to Sky actually this year. Not to race, just to watch. Um, I am not prepared for 3 days of turkey riding. That is too much. But,
Just like seeing
um
that in person would be so cool.
yeah. I wanna be on Mount Olympus when they get done at the end of the day, like, that last day, like, I think that that would be the coolest thing,
Yeah.
and, like I said, I know so many of the riders now, like, to see them finish, like, when Radford Chug finished in one of, like, the top 16 that finished or he was one of the only 16 that finished or whatever, like, that was so cool because like, I talked to him and his girlfriend a lot, and I was just like, "Oh my god, this is amazing," like, it was like my friend won. I'm not, like, super, super close to him or anything, but, like, it was still, like, that excitement, you know? So I can only
Yeah.
imagine being there, like, would be just, like, electric. So, I'm super stoked to go to that one. It's just epic scenery too, and as afraid as I am of exposure, I would love to try to get the skills to do that one day. So,
Yeah.
one day I won't be so afraid of exposure. One day I'll trust my skills enough
You're
and just be good with it, but
yeah. Me too,
working
on
on
that
it.
note.
Okay, well, I think the last thing that I have for you then is this is your time for any shout outs or thank yous or anything like that.
Shout outs. Well, okay, shout out to Josh, my husband, who got me into riding dirt bikes in general and taught me how to ride dirt
Oh.
bikes. Um, he is very patient with me, and it is something that, like, we really, like, enjoy to do together. And then
Yeah.
shout out to there's just, like, so many people that pop in my mind, but, like, everybody who I ride with, I'm, like, so appreciative of everybody that I have ridden with
Mhm.
and I've met through racing and riding. Um,
Yeah.
just, like, everybody who has just been so, like, open arms, kind, like, no one ever makes me feel like a burden, like, I'm just, like, so appreciative of all those people in my life.
Yeah.
I think it's just, like, has fulfilled me so much. Um, but yeah, that's my shout outs, Josh, and then everybody I ride with. There's quite a few people, but and then yeah, like I'm thankful for like the girls that I've met. Like meeting you has been really cool. Today I got to actually conversate with you, which is really exciting because
Yeah.
you get that message with people, but it's not the same. So I'm really
Yeah.
appreciative that you had me on today. That's really exciting, and
Yeah,
just like the
thank
community we're
you.
starting to build. Like the
Yes.
hard enduro community for women. Just
Mhm.
very excited about it.
Yeah, I'm super stoked for that. I can't wait to see it grow. And, you guys had inspiration from Northwest Woods women and Micaiah. Micaiah is absolutely amazing. I don't know if you know her. She is one of the
Yeah,
best human beings on the planet. Um, I absolutely love her and what they've been able to build and do for women in the off-road community in general. I feel like that's what you guys are starting now with the hard enduro stuff for women. So I'm
yeah, and
super excited to see this.
yeah. So like, I love all those women. They're all
Yeah.
so incredibly kind. Like, because like
Yes.
I think Micaiah started the page. Like that was like
Mhm.
her. Like she
Yeah.
started it, but then there's like a few of them. And I
Yeah.
actually messaged her before I started the page because I wanted to like just
Uh,
tell her like, hey, I want to do this page. I just want to run it by you, just because I want to let her know that I was very inspired by her page,
yeah.
and the other girls, their page, because I know they all worked on it together. And she's just like so I've never got to talk to her like this, but I've like messaged her. Um, and she's just such a nice, kind person. And they just like have such a
She is.
great group out there. Like all
Yeah.
the girls who are involved in that are literally like the nicest people ever and are so like
Yeah.
excited for like they just like hype you up all the time. And it's so funny because like I'm all the way on this side and they're like all the way in the West
Yeah.
Coast. So we always like joke about that. So like yeah, I definitely like took big inspiration from them because like they like
Mhm.
plan these group rides together and they've like built such a big
Yes.
community and they like meet up at races and stuff and they'll do like the rider of the
Yeah.
week. And I was like, that is like what we need in the East
Yep.
Coast because like it's like if we don't do it, like who's gonna do it? You know,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
like why
No,
not be the
I'm
person that
super
starts it?
excited. Exactly. You guys are perfect for it. Like you guys are to me big names on the East Coast. You know, I knew who you were. Like I said, I was all like nervous to message you the first time. And
That's so
like
like
cuz
odd
you're
to
this
me.
it's like this big name that I'd heard of and like you were just this like person, like this amazing writer and I was just like, "Oh my
Um,
god. Oh my god, I don't know if she's going to want to talk to me." But yeah, like Micaiah, oh my god, she's absolutely one of the sweetest people. I started talking to her like a year and a half ago, and I had found the page when I first started getting like serious about writing, and it I was just so excited to see women who are real, right? It's not just like, "Oh, look at me, I'm doing motocross and I'm amazing because I can do these jumps." And like,
yeah.
cool, that's awesome, but like I don't do motocross, like I do enduro. So, all right, now here's a page for women who do enduro and they're showing themselves falling and I was like, "Wait, what?" Like you're normalizing that? I love that.
Hmm.
And talking to Micaiah for the first time, it was the exact same thing with you. I was like deathly afraid to message her. And the first time that we had a conversation, I was like, oh my God, I was like, you're like one of my heroes. I was like, oh, I can't believe you're talking to me right now. Like I was like freaking out so bad.
Oh my
And
god.
then now like I talk to her all the time. Like I like she's such a sweetheart and the whole community really like her and Michaela and Jaden and all of them, like,
Hmm.
every single one of them, like, they're just absolutely amazing and the best hype women, like you said. And that's how
Yeah.
I feel about you and, like, since talking to you and, like, finding you and Chelsea and, like, all of these amazing women, and it's just so awesome. It's absolutely amazing to have this kind of excitement. Like when you ladies comment on my stuff, I'm always like, it's always the ladies comment. Like it's really cool to get the guys who are like,
Yeah.
yeah, dude, that was sick. But then the girls are like, oh my God, you killed it. And I'm like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's how I felt too. Exactly. I feel the same way. I feel the exact same way. Yeah, that's like
Yeah.
I think like and I do love like trailbound ladies, like the I don't know why I can't think of her name right now, but she runs the page. And she would always like she started following me when I just started like getting into like hard enduro and she would like say like you should try that hill. Like she would like always like message me like you should try that or like you should try the race. And I'm like she was like always in the back of my head and I was like "Ooh." So like her like a little bit of like a nudge like always like got me to push a
Yeah.
little bit more. But there was like
Yeah.
a couple of girls I met at Roar, and that's like a thing too. Like I'm like I met these people one time, and then now I haven't got to really see them at all. So it's like
Mhm.
it's nice to like build a connection with people beyond
Yeah.
just like
For
that one
sure.
time a year you get to see them. But yeah, I like
Yeah.
love those girls. The Northwest Woods women,
Yeah.
they're the best. They're so nice. I just like love it. You know, I like that stuff too. Like I want to see like real stuff, you know, like
Yeah.
not just like pros who are just doing crazy stuff. Like it's very cool to see that. And like
Yeah.
I love to like admire that and like one day be able to do that. But it's just
Yeah.
nice to see like a group of girls who are like struggling together, working through things, all different skill levels. It's just so nice to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, just to see the camaraderie and like you said earlier, the growth mindset, like they're all pushing and they're all improving. And
Yeah.
I just think that that's really cool to see. And for like I said, those little tips and tricks that you can get from women, uh, it just works better for us. I mean, I've even seen things, sorry to all the guys listening, but I've even seen women talk about things like how to deal with your period when you're out camping and dirt biking and stuff like that,
Hmm.
like how to deal with like, when your hormones are going certain ways and you're tired and how to get over that. I've seen conversations like that, and those are obviously conversations we can't have with our guy friends. So like,
Yeah.
I mean, unless they've read a book or they know somebody and they really know it, but most of the time they're going to be like, ew, periods, gross. So like,
Yeah.
I
I
it's a
totally
different
agree.
camaraderie.
Yeah, and it's like I think just in general, like women learn differently than men. Like men kind of just like
Yes.
send it more often, and I think women are just
Yep.
like are more like not like reserved because there's guys who are reserved too, like more like scared. So it's not really
But
that. It's
we
just
need to
more like
have it explained more usually.
like yeah,
Like
like I
instead of
can't just
just being like
send it,
like,
dude.
"Oh, yeah, make your bike do this," or like, just do this with your clutch. And it's like, okay, but what does that mean? And like,
Yeah.
what am I doing exactly? Like, I need it explained so I can visualize it so then I can do it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of women are like that, not all, but a lot of women are like that. And a lot of guys aren't used to that. So when guys get into coaching, they're like, "Oh, yeah, I don't know how to use my words for that." Like, and so they make
Oh my
noises,
gosh.
right? Like, how many times have you
Yeah.
seen those videos where the guys are making the noise, like, "Make it do this and make it do that."
Yeah.
And so I like, or even something like I said, like something simple. I need a modification because I'm so short. Like, I felt really bad. My buddy this weekend was like, "Just put your foot down and like walk it up." And I was like, "Dude, my foot doesn't touch the ground." And he's like, "Well, don't get mad at me." I was like, "I'm not mad at you. I'm just like, my foot doesn't touch the ground, so that's not an option." Like, and then I
Mhm.
got on the bike and my foot actually did touch the ground, so I felt really bad. But like, he was trying, but like sometimes the way you say something to a woman in a situation will like set her off. And I'm usually really good about it, but in that specific situation, I was so in my head and like I'm going to go over the edge that I was like, dude, like don't. Just like tell me what to do and just like help me. Like, but he was really good, to his credit, like 100%. Good job, Reagan. You dealt with my snappiness. You're great. But like I we do take things different, and I'm somebody who studies psychology for fun, so I really try and not take things personally, and I really try to like think about how the other person's delivery was meant and not the way that I felt it came across. And
Yeah,
so
like
I
what their
knew
intentions
that he
were.
wasn't, yeah, I know that he was just trying to be helpful and just trying to make me feel good about like having my foot down or whatever. But in that moment, all I could think about was I'm short, I'm struggling because of my height, and I didn't want it to be like looked at as a detriment. Um, but at the same time, I was like, I need to figure out how to get through this. And so it was like a lot of thoughts that happened at one moment. And I think that that happens a lot with women where we immediately overthink something and we have like 100 thoughts in like 2 seconds. And guys don't always have that where they're just like, all right, what do I need to do? I need to do this. Boop, I'm done. Like, so maybe it's like a more of an emotional response.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I do think, like, we're so much better at, like, articulating things
Yeah.
naturally, like, it's easier for like, I feel like I could teach someone how to who never rode, like, I could teach them how to ride better than, like, my husband can, even though, like, he's been riding way longer than me, like, just, like, to get down, like, the clutch and, like, explain it because, like,
Yeah.
sometimes when you're, like, you don't really, like, talk about that, like, for a lot of guys, they just, like, get on the bike and they figure it out by themselves. Like
Yeah.
I just recently, when Ryder came over to ride, which I did not ride the last time because they were riding in like deep snow, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna pass on that. And it was foggy, but
Uh-huh.
he we were talking. I don't know if it was last time or the night time before, but I was like, would you ever teach a clinic? He's like, no, I don't know what I'm doing. They were like, what do you mean? He's like, I don't know what I'm doing to like explain it. I have no idea what I'm doing. I just do it. I was like, I guess like some people, like you just don't even like, if you're that good, I guess you just don't think about it. You just do it.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people you
Well,
can teach, but for him, he was just like,
yeah.
I don't even know how to explain what I'm doing.
Mhm, mhm. Well, and it's really hard for people who've been doing it for a long time, especially people who've been doing it, like, since they were kids, right? These guys learned when they were
Yeah.
kids how to work the clutch, and so for them, it is literally second nature. They don't think about it at all,
Hmm.
whereas I just learned not that long ago how to use my clutch, so I'm still constantly like, "Okay, I gotta pull it in this much. Okay, now I've gotta let it out. Now I've gotta put it in." Like, that's constantly going in my head, like, and they don't I feel like not a lot of them have that, and
Yeah.
they lose touch with it, right? But then also, like, when I was with Jarvis this summer, he said something, and I was like, "Graham, that's not an easy thing for people to do, like, you have to, like, think about this for a second." There was, like, a hill that he was asking people, he's like, "It's not that bad," and I was like, "No." I was like, "Dude, that's freaking terrifying," and I've been riding for a while. I was like, "There's a couple people here who've been riding less than me. That's scary, like, very, very scary." So, I was like, "You have to keep it in perspective. To you, you're used to freaking Romaniacs and Turkey and all that stuff." I was like, "To you, this is nothing. This is a little pebble in the world." But I was like, to me, that's a lot. To that person, that's a ton. Like, so it's about perspective when you're trying to like teach people stuff. And I think that a lot of top people and a lot of people who are um at that higher level forget about that. And it's funny because like Graham was like, "You really like are making me a better coach because you're like, first of all, you have to modify everything for me." And then like I was giving him that perspective, those different perspectives on what's easy, what's hard. And like I was like, "Can you explain that more? Because like I didn't understand what you were saying in regards to like slipping the clutch and stuff. Like when there's newer people, no one knows what slipping the clutch is. Like, when people first said that
Hmm.
to me, it's like, "Okay, what does that mean? That doesn't mean
Yeah, or
anything
like
to me."
loading the
Like,
flywheel. Like if you don't know what
yeah,
that
what does that
means,
mean?
I just
Like,
learned like
okay,
last year what the heck that even means. I'm like, okay,
how do I do
how do
that?
you load a
And it's
flywheel?
like and they're just like, "You just you do it. Alright. Well, how do you compress the suspension?" "You just do it." "Okay, but, like, how?" "I don't know, you just do this with your body." And it's like, "Okay, like, what?" So, yeah, I think it's the articulation, it's really, really important. Like, I think somebody who's really, really good at that is Rich Larson. Rich Larson is amazing at putting into words what you need to do on the bike.
Hmm.
My personal opinion, sometimes he's too good at it. In my personal opinion, I start listening to his words and I'm forgetting what it is that I'm watching and like trying to do because I'm listening to his words and then I'm like, okay, hold on. So sometimes I have to mute his stuff and like watch him do it. And then I go back and I listen to it and I'm like, okay, and then I can put it together. But for some reason, my brain can't handle both at the same time.
Yeah.
Always. Like I sometimes I'm fine and sometimes it clicks, but sometimes like when it's something super new, I'm like, wait, what? So like I'm working on like pivot turns right now and I have not figured it out yet, but he's really good at teaching stuff like that. So
Hmm.
kudos to Rich.
Yeah, I definitely watch a lot of his stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I like learning from different styles because sometimes the way that one person teaches something doesn't click for me, and then the way somebody else teaches it, I'm like, "Oh yeah, all of a sudden it makes sense." Like, "Duh, that's what that person was
Hmm.
saying. All right, cool." So, I just it's a constant, like we said, going back to the growth mindset. It's constantly trying to learn, constantly trying to push myself and figure out what the best way is for me to learn so I can go through and move on to the next thing. So,
Yeah.
but that's just me. Anyways, I apologize. I wasn't trying to keep you this long. We're like almost 3 hours now. So thank you. I seriously appreciate you and all of the time that you have given. Oh my goodness, I didn't think it was gonna take 3 hours. Um
Thank you
but
so
this
much for
was really
having me.
amazing. And I guess we'll be seeing you at Battle of the Goats, which is in like a month and a half.
I know,
That's
it's so
insane.
soon. Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
god. I need to go train right now in the dark. All right. Well, I'll see you later.
See ya. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.